welcome to Rice Ball Conflict. I'm your host, Cyan, for your normal anime podcast. Today, I have another special guest with me. I brought in Big Chunk.
Shalom.
And this one's gonna be fun because, the past, 10 minutes, we've been talking a little anime, and I think that's the most anime we've ever talked. So, I get to pick your brain a little bit on, some of your anime takes and some of your tastes and figure out what's going to happen there. But also, I've mainly picked you because I've heard before you kind of get into anime talks. And you get shut down because you want to go on anime rants and then nobody lets you. So I'm like, I'm going to fucking let you.
Oh, bro. So there's a famous instance where I was on stream. It was a drinking night. We were having community night. We were playing games. We were talking about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, we were talking about we were talking about fairy tales where it started, and then we were talking about, and then it translated over to talking about One Piece, which, in case you don't know, is my favorite anime.
Fair. Okay.
Up there with the Mob Psycho.
Respectful.
And it was basically the person was like, yeah, I don't get it. It just looks bad, and all the characters are stupid and dumb, and also his name is Monkey, and I was already drunk.
Oh
and
my
I
gosh.
just guys, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. And I got so worked up. I took off my shirt and pulled out a sword and started swinging around on stream.
Oh
and
no.
I was just losing my mind. I was yelling, and it was what you would expect from finding some random dude who's at a bar drunk out of his gourd.
You are the walking stereotype of the anime weeb at a convention that nobody wants to talk anime with, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I'm not that bad normally.
Okay.
I'm just that bad because of the person that I was talking to loves to push my buttons.
Okay.
And it gets to me every so often. But no, normally I'm not that bad.
Okay, to be
The
fair,
sword was also just a recent purchase or not a purchase, but a gift I got at a Christmas thing.
To be fair, every conversation I've seen you have with at least not all your friend group, but a majority of your friend group, whether it be gaming or anime, I feel like most of your friends like to push your buttons.
Oh yeah, for sure. That is a constant.
Yeah. So Fairy Tale, you brought that one up before, and you brought that up before we started recording. My second favorite anime, One Piece being your favorite. I'm not dissing on One Piece. The only reason it's not on my top list is just because it's not finished. So
yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah, I don't put anything in my top ranking because if it's not finished, because it won't. I don't think it could drop it all the way down, but I think it can impact on where it would place. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Oda himself has said that he plans to end it by January 2025.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be real. I have no idea how that's gonna happen. There's so much shit to finish up and pull together story wise that it just doesn't seem possible.
I believe it because I'm not fully caught up. I'm anime only. I don't read the manga.
That's fair.
Because I don't read manga for anything anymore. But
that's fair.
Even that I'm behind on because I'll get on One Piece. I'll get to a good stopping point if I'm getting close to catching up, and then I'll let it ride for a bit so I can binge watch. Yeah. So I got to the point where they have raided into Kaido's castle.
Okay, so you're still in Wano.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm still in Wano. So that's where I stopped. And then I think they finished Wano in the anime, which is what I was waiting for so I can watch onward because I wanted to finish off that arc and I was tired of watching week to week. So
that is fair.
Yeah, I love One Piece though. It's amazing.
I'm glad.
But what is this hot fairy tale take you have?
Okay, so look, here's what I will say. I really, really, really enjoyed Fairy Tail growing up, and I watched it a lot. And I personally still think Fairy Tail is good. I just think that the animation sucks. Let's be real. It's like flipping through a picture book, which I know all anime is technically thing by frame by frame, but at the same time, it's just the amount of time someone will go and hit someone or punch them in the head, and then it's 10 to 12 seconds of just a slow slight camera tilt zoom out as it's going away from it, or then they'll go and punch someone else, and then it'll be a freeze frame still image of that, but the camera's moving downward. It feels so cheap, for lack of a better word.
I will
they're not
say
wanting to actually animate a lot of it.
I will say that's definitely a big flaw in the first season or the first portion before they went on that first break. I think they did better with it in the second portion. I know they don't do that as much in the final arc or the final season or however
That
they're
is true.
breaking
The
up.
final season.
So yeah, but I 100% agree with that in the first one. Like, granted, I don't really watch it for its stellar fight sequences because for me, what makes a good fight sequence is like the enjoyment of I guess the hype of the fight.
Yeah, for sure. The tension.
Yeah. So I don't care how well animated it is. It's cool if it's really well animated. But for me, it's like every fight in Fairy Tail has so much on the line, and you're so invested in the characters. And I'm like, I don't give a shit if they use still frame images. I don't care if they use Digimon Sailor Moon Tactus and just reuse stock footage over and over again, which they do at times.
Yeah.
Especially for Natsu's attacks, but
yeah, that's mostly what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
I will say, I just think that for me, there are certain moments that I don't mind it all the time, but I think there are certain moments where, so for instance, in like the tournament arc with Loxus and Jira,
right?
They're, like they're fighting it out, and I was hyped beyond like measure for that like clash, and I was like, this will be so sick, and it felt like one, it didn't get the screen time that it needed or deserved. And then two, it just felt like for such a big clash of like powers, I really expected more love and care into like animating it.
Yeah.
And it fell victim to like more still images and stuff.
I respect this because a lot of times whenever people do criticize Fairy Tail, they criticize Fairy Tail for faux pas that every long running shonen does, and most of them do it much worse. And most of them are just rehashing opinions that they heard from other big YouTubers and aren't formulating their own. So I honestly, I respect a different hate tactic for Fairy Tail. But like it's something I can understand because people complaining about the fan service, like literally Naruto.
Yeah, that's everything. Yeah. Like, okay, so if we're gonna talk about fan service, I don't think that, like, I know shonen and a lot of stuff is like bad about it. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm also just like, there's so many animes that are doing it now.
There really
it's, like,
is
insane. Like Fire Force had like a big issue about doing the like weird lechery thing. With like the girl, like the lucky lechery, I think is what they called it.
Yeah, I love that so much though.
I mean, it's funny and it creates like funny moments. It's not a big deal. It's only when it's over the top. So this is, I've been watching I know you said don't typically watch or talk about like newish animes.
That's fine.
But there is one, because I'm an isekai trash goblin. I will watch any isekai that comes across like Crunchyroll at least like for 3 episodes or so.
Oh god.
Yeah. And it's like, to be fair, I'm not saying that they're all good, because I don't think they are. I think a lot of them are garbage, nonsensical trash. But, for instance, Monster, specifically, is a new one that came out. And have you watched or anything of that so far at all?
I have heard about it from my chat quite a bit.
I hate it with a passion. Because, like, the 3rd episode is literally, the dude has an orgy. And it's like, there's always like the kind of joke of like, oh, the dude has like a harem in a shonen anime. This one's just like straight up, it just happens. And it's like the whole episode and it's all leading up to it. And I'm like, why is this an episode? Who needed this? Who is this for? I hated it so much. And I dropped it immediately after that.
I mean, I don't have a problem with fan service. And then I never really have, because I grew up watching, I think Naruto might have been my first instance of fan service, in like episode 2 of him just straight up teaching a small child how to do sexy jutsu by peeping on women. And Yu Yu Hakusho had a bit as well. But like, I think if it's done well, fan service isn't bad. I understand people are not gonna like it. Like there's people that are completely repulsed by it. But 90% of anime do it.
Yeah.
Like, in some way, shape, or form. It's not always meant to be lewd. A lot of times it's meant to be comedic. And I think using stuff like that for comedic, like, relief is fine, in my opinion. Sure. So,
I agree.
Which Fairy Tail generally it is. And it's used as a moment to break tension of, like, oh shit, Lucy's been captured. They walk in, she's being hung by tentacle creatures, and there's the weird sound effect that is just synonymous with
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like it's done and it's not even done that much. Like One Piece and Bleach are far more atrocious with their lewd fan
Yeah, for
service
sure.
scenes. Like they have entire characters built around it, whereas I don't think Fairy Tail actually has a Juvia exists. Never mind. I was gonna say it doesn't have a horny character, but
Yeah,
Juvia
I
is
say
there.
Julia is definitely that entire trope.
Yeah, granted, she doesn't come till later. To be fair,
Mm,
she's not there until what 30 episodes in, and then she doesn't really get
yeah.
bad until like the second part.
Mm.
So when she starts talking about how she has
Uh,
a scrubby of gray that she takes to the bath with her.
yeah, see, something like that, that's kind of funny, though.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I think there are very few instances where I'm like, this is too much and it
Mhm.
like, bothers me.
Yeah.
Green Monster being one. The other one being, I recently watched this because a friend of mine was like, hey, the world building in this is really sick and we want to use it for, like, other stuff that we're potentially, like, working on.
Okay.
But that being said, it's a little weird, a little uncouth to say the least. Have you ever heard of, or you probably have, Made in Abyss?
Oh yeah, I love Made in Abyss. It's great.
Made in Abyss is great. I hate that they're children, and I hate the weird meme of like them being strung up naked as like a weird joke punishment. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's one thing if it's like grown adults and it's like kind of a whole thing, but like
Hmm.
with whenever you have anything with children, it just feels so much more unsettling.
I kind of agree. And like I know a lot of people have the stigma against Made in Abyss because of that. Granted, most of the
Mm.
people bring up the fact more the scene where she gets super sick and is about to die, and then she pees herself, and they're like, "Oh, why'd they bring attention to the fact she peed herself?" And I'm like, "She's freaking dying.
Yeah,
What do you
it's just
mean?"
showing how
Uh,
severe like her illness and
yeah.
stuff is. That was kind of fine. I didn't
Uh,
think the weird thing of like I'm shoving this medicine in your ass thing was kind of
yeah.
maybe a bit much. But besides that, I was like the peeing stuff was whatever. It just
But
is a medical thing.
the strung up naked thing, and this is gonna be really weird. I don't know how to make this not weird to sound it, but I grew up in the South where like when
I'm
you're
from Arkansas. I understand.
yeah, you grow up, you're running around in the boonies. Your brothers and your sisters are running around in their underwear and no shirts on and stuff like that. It's like, and
Yeah,
they're in an orphanage full of what would be their siblings. So I
yeah.
don't see it as like inappropriate as much as it's
Mm,
just like I feel like people are seeing too much into it because, granted, I don't know how Japanese culture is on that kind of thing.
that's
Um,
true.
but
I think
I
about that
know
often.
for again, like I grew up where my brothers walked around in nothing but their whitey tighties half the fucking time during the
Yep.
summer, and my sisters ran around in their bra and their underwear, and nobody really cared.
A Southern classic.
Yeah, it's like you don't do it nowadays, obviously, but
No, no.
back in the 90s that was the norm. So when I see stuff like that, I my first thought is like, oh, that's inappropriate, they're children. My first thought is like, yeah, that was my childhood, I can see that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think the I would agree if it was something like them having a bath or something together,
Hmm.
like it was just being because that's like I took baths with like people, and it was just like when you were like a toddler or a baby.
Yeah.
It's like who cares? But whenever it's punishment, I think is the weird part, right? Because
True.
like they're adults that are punishing the children. That's the part where I'm like, this feels like it has gone over. And again, it could be like a Japanese culture thing that I'm unaware of
Hmm.
that maybe is more normalized. I don't know, but to me, it's definitely weird, and that's how I feel about like. There's always going to be that dichotomy of not being from Japan and not understanding the culture,
Right.
but you know, at a
Yeah.
certain point, I'm just like, I don't know,
I
not for me.
I'm not the type to kind of police it unless it's done in a way of like, Boku no Pico level of shit.
Yeah,
Like
fair. Oh, absolutely.
if it's made to be horny and they're doing it, then it's weird. But if it's not made to be that way and it's made more as like a probably a shock factor kind of thing,
Yeah.
I can get behind it a little bit more. This is also coming from somebody that didn't quite mind redo of Healer, by the way. So
Which is redo healer. Hold on a minute. I
uh
feel like I need to bring it up to look at it so I can figure out.
the last big controversial one that happened a few years ago. But
Bum, bum, bum.
It's
Boom, boom.
not saying like it's best thing ever, but I think it got too much hate, and I like a
Oh,
good revenge story. So
that's fair. I did not watch this one, so I
fair.
cannot one way or the other agree or disagree, I guess.
Yeah. There's a very fucked up thing that happens in episode 2 that everyone is very unhappy about, but
Is it made to be like the fucked up thing is what they're going against? Like it's a bad guy and meant to be like they're going against it, or is it?
so to summarize this without getting completely just stricken from the platform.
Okay, fair. So
So,
it's half kind of fucked up. Got it.
yeah. So main dude gets selected, or he gets the mark showing that he's one of the chosen heroes of the land or whatever. And his
Mhm.
ability is healing. Um and he learns, or he gets picked up by like the royalty or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, come use your healing magic. We want to see what you can do." They bring on a full-on amputee and say, "Hey, heal her arm." And he does it, and she grows her arm back, but by doing so he feels all the pain and experience of her losing the arm and the
Oh.
healing process she went through, and he's just like, "I don't want to do this anymore." And he like breaks down. He's like, "This is too painful. I don't want to be this hero." um and royalty is like, "No, fuck that shit. uh you're gonna do it. We're gonna do horrible things to you. We're gonna torture you, drug you, do a 4-letter word that I will not say live on camera, um,
Yeah.
to him," and it was like
Oh.
horribly traumatic. So he
Yeah.
resets time, because they skip forward. He resets time, and he goes back, with the knowledge of what happened to him and what's going to happen to him, and he prepares for it. Like he starts taking drugs to make him immune to the narcotics they're going to give him, so that he can break out of his dependency a lot faster. And um, he basically enacts his revenge on everyone that did him wrong the second time around. And he only does it to the people that did him wrong the second time. If they only fucked him over in the first time but didn't touch him in
Mm.
the second time, he doesn't touch them. But if they did it again, he basically does exactly what they did to him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. Second episode, he gives the princess a piece of his mind. Um, but I will say one of my favorite scenes is not that particular moment, but it's the moment where
Oh,
he's
that's
like,
good.
"Yeah, no, no, that's I could have lived without that moment, really." And it only happens like, well, no, it doesn't. It only happened once. Anyway, but I'm only talking about the first 2 episodes here, by the way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Second episode, when he's torturing the princess, he starts breaking her fingers, and he says, "If you don't scream, I'll let you go." And he gets to the 10th finger, and he's like, "Oh, you've been such a good girl. You didn't scream once." And then he heals all her fingers, and he's like, "Let's go again."
Oh my god.
I love
That's
it.
that's hard to be
Mhm.
fair. Like that go hard.
Yeah, like there's moments about it I like. And there's moments
Sure.
I agree, like this did not need to happen. This did not need to be animated.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like this is borderline hentai at this point, honestly. But
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking in my mind. But I
yeah.
was also keeping in mind it's like the first 2 episodes. I think
Mhm.
maybe it gets better.
No, not really.
Okay.
The second episode is the most gruesome.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's I like a good revenge fantasy every now and then, and
Oh, for sure.
if they're that creative with some of their scenes, which again, that's my favorite scene, is when he's like breaking her fingers, and then he's like, "Oh, you did good. Too bad my
Yeah.
ability is healing."
Yeah, it's like the Tokyo Ghoul scene with Jason.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it's like, which also I just recently watched Tokyo Ghoul, and I still don't know what the fuck that anime is.
I have only seen the first season, that first season. Um,
Mm,
I had decided it's not really for me. Like people
that's fair.
say it didn't do the manga justice, but I'm not a manga reader. But
That's fair.
it's a little too edgy for the sake of edgy.
Oh, for
Like,
sure, absolutely.
I feel like this appeals to a 19-year-old high school boy, not to
Hmm.
me. So
That is 1000%. I agree.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, even then, I was like, okay, it's at least halfway decent.
Hmm.
And then you get to season 3, and it's like basically everything is not explained in the first 2 episodes, and it's
Love
just
that.
kind of like a whole new anime. There's a new tone, there's new characters. Like there's only one character, and he looks completely different. Like his design is like redone, and
Hmm.
it just makes no sense. And they don't explain it. They're just like, yeah, this just kind of happened now.
Yeah, I think if what I remember hearing is correct, they went anime only, and then they went back and like, hey, we're gonna pretend the anime only didn't happen, but we don't want to remake the stuff. So I think that season 3 is where
Mm,
it goes back on track.
that
Uh,
would make more sense. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I've heard anybody talk about Tokyo Ghoul other than bringing up Unravel, which
Yeah, of course, because
might be.
banger.
It was a banger until I heard it 5 million times.
10,000. Yeah, sure. That's how I feel about oh, what is it? The opening for Death Parade.
Oh yeah, same. I haven't even
Which
watched
is
Death Parade, and I'm so sick of the opening.
it's one of those things. It's like I love the opening. I still do, but like, man, it does get played. I like if I
Yeah,
walked into a Walmart and heard it like playing, I would not be surprised. I'm like, oh yeah, no, there's that opening. I get it.
yeah. There's a lot of anime openings that like they get overplayed. And there's a lot of anime openings that get overhyped. I
Hmm.
feel because every time I pull up the best anime openings of all time, it's always some like the same 5 anime and like every opening to Demon Slayer and then a
Yeah.
JJK opening, a Chainsaw Man opening. I'm like, y'all don't realize how many banger
Yeah.
openings y'all are skipping out on just so you can
Oh, for
replay
sure.
the same stuff over and over again. This is why people get burnt out on it.
Hmm.
We have decades worth of anime openings you can go through to find better openings than half of this.
I'm just saying, Bon Voyage and One Piece, fucking banger
Mm,
opening, and no one talks about it,
I
and I'm
agree.
here for it.
I mean, Fairy Tale has some amazing openings. Black
Oh,
Clover has
absolutely.
some banging openings. Oh my god, there's not a Black Clover opening that isn't amazing in my opinion.
Yeah, bro, I need to finish Black Clover.
Yeah,
It's so hard to get through the initial part that's like really bad until it gets good, and I know it does get good because I've seen some of the stuff for it.
yeah.
But man, it's a chore.
I got a decent ways in, but I had caught up, so I was letting it build up, and then I got
Hmm.
addicted to One Piece again, and then
Hmm.
I haven't gone back to Black Clover because
Hmm.
the anime stopped for a bit, which they're picking the anime back up.
Yep.
That got announced, so I need to catch up on Black Clover, but I don't know if I need to
Same.
restart because
Oh,
it's
I
been a
feel that.
while. Because
That's
the
always my breakdown is like, do I rewatch the other stuff so I know what the fuck's going on, or do I just go for it and just say that I'll figure it out?
the arc I had just finished, I remember being so fucking good, so I wouldn't mind rewatching it.
Hmm.
I just don't know if I need to rewatch everything. I have
Hmm.
restarted One Piece so many times. Um,
I pity you honestly, because like even though I enjoy it, I can't imagine watching the anime. Especially, I mean, it's easier if you like skip all the intros and stuff a lot because that's the one gripe of One Piece I understand is people are like,
mhm.
why is there like the episode's like 15 minutes? It's like
Yeah,
there's the opening and the closing, but there's also like the additional opening of them explaining everything for like 3 minutes. I'm
that
like, yeah,
that was very big, like right before the time skip and a
yeah,
little after the time skip. But they got better at that. They
they did
got
get better at it.
yeah. There's
It's
certain
just like,
arcs that are horrible with it.
well, also it's like One Piece is like from '97. Like
Yeah,
back in the day, that was such a common thing of people being like, "Oh, here's the rehash of what happened last time on the anime." That was in so many things.
I mean, people want to complain about One Piece doing it when they had the entire Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I loved the Chimera Ant art, but man,
I love the
oh.
Chimera Ant arc as well, all like 3 hours of it.
Yeah, right. I do wonder if you like edited it down into a movie, what it would be like, or what it
Uh,
would feel like pacing wise.
I was watching it weekly with my ex when it was airing,
Ooh.
and because it was his favorite anime of all time, and I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I like you, I guess I'll watch it with you, and I liked it, I really did. But now looking back, I'm like, I felt like it dragged so long because 20 minutes of the episode are them just rehashing everything that happened in the last 20 episodes. Um, and I'm looking at it now and I'm like, the Chimera Ant arc is as long as the rest of the series.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. So you watched the newer one then, but did
Yeah,
you ever watch the OG?
I did
Like,
actually. Yeah.
oh man, going from that to watching the newer one, I was like, but where's all the like the training arc of like them going to Killua and all this
I
other stuff?
know.
It's like so short. It's like the characters are way. This is okay. This is my personal hot take.
Mm-hmm.
Some filler is good filler.
I agree.
I'm tired of people being like, yeah, but like if we could just skip all filler, like the show is so much better. I'm like, no, because then you don't know like how the characters interact or how they are like as a whole outside of like these
Mm-hmm.
very intense situations. So you don't get to see the full growth. And it's like especially bad in One Piece, where One Piece early, like before time skip,
Mm-hmm.
is so fun to like watch them like do dumb shit and like go on these little mini adventures.
It gives you like so much more character development. As long as they don't go completely off script with the filler, it does
Yes.
really well. One Piece and Naruto were really good, at least early Naruto.
Yeah,
Shippuden,
dude, Shippuden, don't get me started
yeah,
on Mecha Naruto, dude. I
yeah, I
will
know.
throw a hissy fit right here and now.
But like, people complain Naruto had like what 50 episodes of filler after the Sasuke retrieval arc, but those 50
Yeah,
episodes was Naruto interacting with the rest of the cast. We got to see
I agree.
different character combinations. We got to see other characters and their personality. We would have never gotten any Hinata actual personality outside
Oh,
of
for sure.
like 3 episodes if it wasn't for filler.
But you just been like, oh, her personality, Naruto stalker. That's the personality. There you go.
Yeah, so like the whole reason people like any of the side characters aside from Rock Lee, obviously, is because of the filler. Because you don't get jack shit about them all of Naruto. They just
Yep.
kind of show up for the tuning exams. You're like, oh, they have a cool ability, and then it's just like, well, they're gone now, so
Yep.
whatever. Bleach had the
Oh.
worst fucking filler though. There's not a single good Bleach filler. Well, there's
The whole fucking what was the fucking arc, the puppet things or whatever. What are they
yeah.
called?
Bounce.
Bounce. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I was so angry because Bleach was the first anime that I started collecting the box sets for, and
Mm.
it wasn't because I loved it or anything like that. I was collecting them because I was gifted one for Christmas by my brother,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm the type of person I need a complete collection. I can't just have one, so I started collecting them all, and then we got to the Bound arc, and I'm like, oh, I will skip this season. I'm not gonna waste $50 on a filler arc that is horrible because I watched this on TV.
Yep.
So I bought the next box set, and the next box set is the continuation of the Bound arc.
Oof.
I was so angry. It took me. I didn't actually finish watching Bleach until 2 years ago because I
Oh,
couldn't
really?
every time I pick it up, I'd be like, oh, we're good. We got good plot points. And then horrible filler arc for
Yeah.
like an entire season. And I was like, I can't do this. I just can't. And then I would get back and like, I'll power through the filler. 3 episodes of good actual action plot wise, sort of, kind of. And then
But then people will be like, "Oh, but Ice is the best like super villain ever." I'm like,
oh,
bro, you
suck
see
my
like,
big toe. I don't fucking care.
That's how I feel. I'm like, yeah, he's a kind of good villain, but also one, not in it nearly enough, and two, like also it's just like, is that enough to carry this shit show of like a show?
Especially since
So.
like he's hardly in it even for the canon stuff.
I
If
know.
you add in the fucking filler, he's hardly in it at all.
It's like a Where's Waldo character. I just expect to see him in the background in like a doorway, and just like that's people be like, oh, and just start getting excited seeing him, and I'm like, oh, I don't get it.
I'm slowly powering through the newest arcs of Bleach, but
I haven't watched it since it came back. To be fair, I will say.
you're not missing much.
Okay. More of the same old.
It's actually so they're doing the new gen pacing kind of stuff where like everything just happens all at once.
Yeah.
There is an entire episode where 3 fights start and end in the same episode. Like they're so fast, it's just like, oh, we're struggling. Oh, one punch dead. Oh, well, that's done.
Classic.
On to next. I'm like, I can't. I don't care about these fights. These fights aren't even good. Like, oh, they're flashy because it's beautiful animation because they're
Yeah.
animation studios are doing a banger job making it look good. but like I don't even understand what the villain plot is. We're 2 seasons in, and
Mm.
I still don't fully understand why these guys are here and doing
Yep.
this shit.
Fair.
So I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'm watching it out of obligation, and that is it.
So you said, so what is it was the thing that got you like hyper into anime in the first
Hyper
place?
anime. So I like as a kid, like growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, like I watched, of course, like Digimon on
Mm-hmm.
Fox Kids, and I had the
Yep.
Saturday morning cartoons, and I had a few other like Shaman King, Ultimate Muscle, stuff like that was airing.
Mm.
And I got into it, and then when I got into like, I think I was like 12 or 13, uh, my mom got a new boyfriend and we got cable for the first time, so I got to watch Toonami, and I got obsessed with this little show called DBZ. And
Ah, the classic. Okay.
yeah, I had a big brother, my oldest brother, and he
Mm.
was the one I was closest to, and I was like, yeah, big brother, I want to show you this really cool thing. You got to watch it with me. And I sat him down and I made him watch an episode, and I think it was in the middle of the Frieza saga. Um, to my surprise, even as like a little kid me, to my fucking surprise, he fucking loved it. My brother
Yeah.
is 14 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Full ass grown adult, just got out of college, and he went and he got every VHS of every Dragon Ball Z, and then later Dragon Ball
Man.
GT episode, which I now have because he fell out of love with anime.
Mm.
But he did the deep dive for me when I was younger because he
Oh.
got Ghibli movies. He got Princess Mononoke, which became my favorite. Whenever I went to visit my big brother, I was
Mm.
like, "Can I watch the Wolf movie? I want to watch the Wolf movie."
Yeah. That's
Uh,
cute.
yeah, and he got me into Vampire Hunter D, Blood the Last
Mm.
Vampire, a lot of like stuff I probably shouldn't have been watching as a preteen.
Yeah, that's how I feel about when my brother showed me Golden Sun.
Yeah,
Or
oh
not
my
Golden
god.
Sun, Golden Boy or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
And I
recently
was
watched
like,
that one.
yeah, I watched that when I was 15 and I was like, huh?
Um,
What is this? What's going on? What's she doing with that motorcycle? What's going on?
yeah. But yeah, so now I got deeper into it because of that, because he got deeper into it and then he segued
Mm.
me into it. And my mom sheltered me like horribly. Like, I couldn't watch Disney movies, I couldn't watch a lot of stuff, but since my brother was okay, could do no wrong, and he liked anime, I was allowed to watch
Mm.
anime. Um
Okay, okay.
which led me to the awkward realization of my stuff I shouldn't have been watching on my own. When I moved to Houston, when I was
Mhm.
still in like middle school, high school, I was homeschooled, so I don't remember what year it was.
Gotcha.
Um, there was a channel called AZN that showed all Asian television, and it had like they had Korean dramas and they had music television shows that showed J Rock and stuff like that. But they also
Mhm.
had anime segments. Um, I don't know how 14-year-old me got through most of these animes and did not realize that they were what they were.
Mhm.
But I went back and rewatched them. It took me a long time to like try and find them all because I don't remember all the titles for most of them.
Yeah, you
So
just like this show where it went this way. Typing into Google makes
yeah,
you feel like a criminal. You're like, I don't know why I'm having to describe it like this.
yeah. A couple of them were yaois. Did
Of
not
course, yeah.
realize. But the one that I only recently was able to find of, and I found it by chance because I had been looking for it for fucking years. And all I could remember is I had to turn it off at the end because I got uncomfortable because the dude started licking the woman's nipples.
Wow.
Yep, that was the ending credits, and I was like, I shouldn't be watching this. That was the 14-year-old me being like, oh, yeah, that's not something I should be watching.
Yep. It shouldn't
um,
be like that.
it is an anime movie called Wind Called Amnesia, and it's very old, and it's about a wind that takes everybody's memories away, and then this alien bitch comes on, adopts this dude who has no memory, and I guess explains everything about the world and
Mhm.
what's going on, and then she abducts him to make half alien babies or something. I watched. I'm not entirely sure, but I watched that when I was 14, and I was like, "Yeah, this is normal." Until the boobs came out, and then I was like, "This isn't normal."
Until the boobs came out. Classic.
Nope.
I feel like it'd be like that for a lot of people, though. Like, for instance, I'm starting to realize how similar of an upbringing we had, where my parents were like hyper,
Mm-hmm.
conservative, and did. My mom thought that basically all anime was the equivalent of hentai, and so I wasn't allowed to watch stuff like Pokemon and stuff because of not understanding it. And also, she didn't believe in evolution. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But I had my older brother was super into it and would do stuff where he would get on his PC or his laptop that he had for college, and he would like download a bunch of that stuff on and burn them onto discs.
Oh, nice.
And so he had like the first 50 episodes of One Piece, and he had like Zatch Bell.
Oh my god.
And, yeah, I know, and those were the things that got me into anime because I just sit in his floor in his like room, pressed up against his bed, just sitting there watching these things. I was like, this is so cool. Why isn't our cartoons like this? What the hell? This is a lot more like Digimon than anything else I watch. I love this shit.
I have to ask that you brought it up. Have you revisited Zatch Bell?
Oh yes, I have.
Okay, so
have,
you
100%.
So you know how it was censored.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vastly.
Okay.
A lot. Yeah. I didn't realize that until I went back and watched it, and even the first episode surprised me.
Yeah, I remember going through and watching it in the subtitled for the first time and being like, you know, it makes a lot more sense why he's dancing, twisting his nipples.
Yep.
Now that I have the context, but
Yep.
man.
It was a very different experience the second time around for sure. When I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, dude, this is just like these like Pokemon demon things that all these guys have, and they're fighting to be the Demon King." I was like, "This is so cool."
I know.
And then I rewatched it. I'm like, "Oh, that's okay." This is like I thought he was like a puppet demon thing. Now I realize he's actual like being. And like, there's like a whole scene where he like goes and fishes like a fish out of the river, and he's just like butt naked like for way too long, just like 5 minutes of the show. And I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah, I mean, granted, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z was the same way. There's
Dragon
so
Ball
many. Yeah.
I think I tell people often about the scene where he like lays down in between Bulma's legs and like pats like her panties. He's like he's fluffing a pillow.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's crazy. That's insane that that's on TV.
He literally does it to Chi-Chi the first time they met as well.
Yeah.
He's like, just checking if you're a girl or a guy, because I can't tell.
Yeah.
Like, no, please.
The physical secondhand embarrassment is too much.
Yeah, some of the censoring for that was really fun, because I do have a couple VHS of the actual censored and the uncensored versions of DVD, not DBZ, but original Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
There's an episode where they're fighting for the Dragon Balls or whatever, they're being summoned, and the bad guys are about to make a wish, but to stop them, Oolong, the pig, makes a wish for panties.
Yeah.
And
honestly, ironic that's the pig. That's all.
Yeah. And in the original, he wishes specifically for ladies' panties, and they come down, floating down with a little bow on them.
Mm-hmm.
The way they censored that was it's still underwear, but they edited a little Shinron on the bow, and it's so poorly done.
Is that your favorite? What is your favorite censorship that you've seen in like anime or stuff like that?
Oh man, so this is gonna be kind of recency bias because I am rewatching Digimon.
Mm-hmm.
But you remember Puppetmon, right?
I do, yeah.
Puppetmon pulls out a full-on gun and throws it at TK and challenges him to a gunfight and everything, and tells him to like shoot people, and like he shoots his own two minions. He shoots Mushroomon and Blossomon, and like he's chasing TK around the house with the freaking gun, and that entire thing is censored out. For obvious reasons, but it's still wild.
Threatening a child with a gun, I wonder, it's crazy.
Yeah, but like that's so much of the episode, because for that cast, like everyone's watching the dub version. I am going through and rewatching everything in subtitled to kind of see the comparisons as well.
Mhm.
But there are some versions on the internet. Whenever I can't get the whole group together, they'll individually watch on their own, and they'll
Mm.
go to alternative sites. And for some reason, people are putting the English dub over the original footage, so all the censored stuff is there in Japanese,
Mhm.
but it jumps from Japanese to English at
Uh-huh.
random moments and random cuts.
Girl.
Um, it's so weird. I don't know whose idea it was to do that, but yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah, it's a full like 10-minute scene of an episode, and they fluffed out the time really well with
I
it.
didn't I didn't realize it was that. That's insane. 10
It,
minutes is a huge amount to cut out.
it is. It was like I don't fully know how they filled out the time. I know they dragged out one of the evolution sequences, and it's you can tell it's dragged out by they
Gotcha.
stretched it because the audio's stretched. And
Gotcha.
they did
Like
reuse it 'cause
replays the song again, like just
yeah,
the Digimon.
yeah. So
Classic.
they worked around it, but
Mhm.
yeah, Digimon had some hard censoring because they even censored out some scenes of Heightened Buteris getting destroyed by Parrotmon and Greymon from the original
Mhm.
movie, like the flashback scenes,
Interesting.
because it would have aired after 9/11, like in the re-airing.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah. So.
I didn't even think about that. That's fair, honestly. I get it.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
still think that my favorite type of censoring is not whenever they hard cut stuff, but whenever
Mhm.
they just like the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff where they just
Oh
like
my god, the
took
fingers.
away their yeah, they just like took away the guns and they're just pointing fingers at each other. It's just like
Yeah.
freeze, and he's just pointing at a guy.
Oh
I'm just
man.
it's so silly, and it's so like it still like flows the same way as like the original stuff, but man, it's
I
obviously so derpy.
I appreciate when they hard do dialogue stuff to work around things as well, like the
Mm,
work around topics. Like people meme on it
yeah,
all the time, especially 4Kids was guilty of it. But
yeah, oh for sure.
to to do their own oh god, I lost my train of thought completely. I had an entire scene in my head and
Hmm.
I forgot what it was. I even forgot what
Sad.
anime it was from.
The Four Kids One Piece rap though,
Oh
banger.
yeah, that
So
was
you know,
great.
all is forgiven for their shitty dubs sometimes.
Honestly, the 4Kids dubs, most of them weren't bad.
Mhm.
Um, it was just some of the localization that they had to do, and like in hindsight, you're like, as an adult, you're like, oh shit, this sucks, and it's good we have an alternate version for it because like Cardcaptor Sakura got hard fucked over. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
4Kids specifically that did that one, but like they even reordered all the episodes because they wanted to make Cardcaptor Sakura for guys, for boys, because they didn't think girls would
Oh,
enjoy it.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so they made it more masculine. They tried to like change the name of it a little bit because it's only Card Captors. It's not Card Captor Sakura. Um, they changed all the names because instead of Dojima, her best friend is called Madison. Uh, but yeah, they reordered all the episodes. Like episode one doesn't happen till like 30 episodes in the series, and it's done as a
Mhm.
flashback instead of being the first episode. And I think episode one in the English is like episode 20 or episode like 15 or 16, something like
Oh
that.
my god.
Yeah, it's wild how they changed it. All for it to get canceled because it looked too much like witchcraft and Christians didn't like it.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah.
When did that come out at?
Uh Cardcaptor Sakura would have been around the time like Digimon and stuff like so 2000,
Mm,
99, something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
that
It
makes sense then. That's very much that same instance of like the Harry Potter
mhm.
like yeah, I remember those days.
And
Barely.
you say those days, that stuff still happens. Like the Golden Compass got a new adaptation for the book
Oh, did
series.
it?
Yeah, they made a TV series for it, and
I didn't know that.
they're still mad about that one being like anti-religious. But
That's so weird to me. Cause I guess this is because I've become more far removed from like that upbringing.
hmm
So it's like for me, I see this stuff a lot more often. Whereas I'm like, oh yeah, that's normal. That's fine. It's whatever.
right,
But
I
yeah, I guess there is probably a lot more.
My
going
brother,
against it.
my brother did the hard turn. Like he was the big anime fan. Now he's
Mm.
a hard into the world doomsayer. Like his last gift to me was
What?
the Book of Enoch and a bunch of like into the world
Oh,
prophecy stuff. Um,
what a twist!
yeah. That's why he gave away all of his DBZ stuff. He's like, this is products of Satan. I was like, you're not throwing those out. I'm taking this.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of whenever I was younger, and we used to have a bunch of college guys that lived with us because my brother had a bunch of friends that had like not so great upbringings, and my mom like tried to take him in.
Right.
But one of them was hyper into Magic the Gathering,
Oh my god.
and they had like thousands upon thousands of dollars in like these cards because they'd spend money on nothing else but that. But they
Mm-hmm.
worked like full-time jobs,
Right.
and it was like at one point he just like did a complete twist and he was like, "Yeah, I'm done with this. I don't want this anymore. You can have all my Magic the Gathering stuff." And I was
Oh
like,
my
because I
god.
knew he had like one of the Black Lotus cards, which were
Ooh.
like insanely expensive at the time and still
Yeah.
are, but like less so nowadays, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was so excited for it. And I came home from school one day, and my mom had given it away to some other
Oh
college
my
guy that moved
god.
out because she was like, "Yeah, we don't want that witchcraft in our house."
That
And I was like, "Look,
sucks.
even
Oh
if
my
you didn't
god.
want that, just let me sell it. Let me sell it. It's so much money. Why did you do this?" It was crazy.
My dad did something similar because part of what my brother gave away was like boxes of comic books. Because
Mm.
my brother's big thing before getting into anime was comics, so he had like a bunch of
Oh,
X-Men, a lot of Spider-Man, like original copies. They were all
gotcha.
properly sleeved. They were in the big long boxes.
Oh wow, he's like a professional collector then. If he's like
Yeah.
sleeving them and everything. Okay.
I had 6 boxes of them. I had gone through all of them, cataloged them. I had saw what they were worth. I would regularly check them, like see what went up in value and stuff. I had a whole list of them. Like I was meticulous about like my collections at the time. I
Mm.
came home from a weekend out. I think I had went to like a convention or something, and yeah, I was at IkiCon. It was New Year's weekend, and came back home, and I saw my closet was open. And I looked at my closet, and all 6 boxes are gone. I went to my dad. He's like, "Oh, I needed beer money. I sold them for $20."
Oh my god.
I was
I
like,
needed beer money. Holy fuck,
I
dude.
was like, Dad, you realize I have a volume in there of Uncanny X-Men #1.
Oh,
That
oh,
that
oh, my
that
heart
that
hurts.
alone could have bought you a fucking year's supply of beer.
Oh no.
Yeah, he sold them for like $15 a box to some drug dealer or something.
Oh.
I was so angry. I'm like, if you're gonna sell them, at least sell them close to what they're worth.
Yeah, right?
Like, oh, I was so angry.
I'm honestly getting secondhand frustration for you.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
but I enjoyed my collectibles. I still have like a lot of my trading cards. He did take some of those at some point too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have like my OG Yu-Gi-Oh cards from the original
Mm-hmm.
decks.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
I have some really old Dragon Ball Z cards.
Were you
Multiple
just a
different
collector? Or
decks.
did you ever actually like play these games?
So I played Yu-Gi-Oh online on like games that they had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was one, I don't remember what it was called. I could probably find the box for it. There was a Yugi version and there was a Seto version. And it was you had a story game you could play with, but you could connect online to play it.
Mm.
And back around the time I got into it, like it was a long dead game, but there were
Yeah.
still some people that played it online, so I played with them. But I never played with my actual cards. I played Magic. I would go to like the local card shop and play Magic on Friday nights, but um, that was only for like 2 years. I got kind of sick of it. I got more sick of the crowd, I guess. Not so much sick of the game.
Yeah, fair.
And then Commander became a thing, and I stopped playing Magic too. So
Yeah, that's fair. I really liked. I don't know. I was always really into like Magic the Gathering and all this stuff, but it
mhm.
became hard to keep up with every new release,
Yeah,
and like so much money would have to go into it to like stay in it. And I
yeah.
would go to like card shops too, but I don't know if where you're from it's the same issue. but around here, card shops don't tend to last long because they usually are really poorly run.
Yeah.
And like the dudes will be like, who own the shop will be playing games and doing stuff with people, but also like not attending to their own store, and so people are stealing stuff, or people are just like waiting and being impatient because they're like trying to check out and no one's checking them out.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
We had so at the time, because at the time I wasn't living in Houston, but they had two comic shops that were kind of rivals of each other, but they were in different cities. They kind of worked out. They sold cards as well as like their comics and their other merchandise, so they did fairly well, and they had space to do the card nights and stuff. And they didn't generally run it, but they allowed people to come in and run the games. Both of the shops were owned by like older people, so they knew all this stuff, but they're like, yeah, we manage the shop, we just allow y'all to play here, kind of thing. We did have a couple shops that did open up that tried to be just card exclusive. They did not last long for exactly the reasons you summed up. So
yeah,
that's. I mean, it's cool if you want to open a shop for your passion, but you have to like realize you are the owner of the shop. You can't just be doing it for fun. So
yeah, 1000%.
Yeah.
Because I get the draw of wanting to do it for fun because it's like a thing you're passionate about or a thing that you enjoy, but at a certain point you have to be like, this is also a business and also needs to be ran somewhat like a business.
Yeah. So like the card shops, I went to one regularly. The old lady that ran the shop, she was really nice. I used to buy my comics from there pretty regularly, as well as like my board games and stuff. And that crew that went to that one was generally like older guys, like generally my age or older. So at the time, probably like mid-20s, they're up to their 30s. And it was really chill. Like most of them were really nice. When I first like, hey, I want to learn how to play Magic to do these tournaments, they started giving me their junk cards. Like,
yep, classic.
At first I was like, this is weird. Not comfortable with that. And I was like, I'm just gonna buy my own, so I stopped accepting the cards. And then some of the other girls that used to hang around there but didn't play the game were saying I was being mean. I was like, how am I being mean? I appreciate the free cards, but one, these are shit cards in the first place, and two, they paid money for them.
Why you're getting it, right? It's like, they're not good. Like that's, I think just because filler, it's more to deal with. It's like I understand at first when you're first getting into it, but at a certain point you just gotta like, no thanks.
Yeah. Like I appreciate I got some good little small cards I could use to build my decks and stuff, but I still felt really uncomfortable taking free stuff from people. The second card shop, and this one had more of the anime stuff, so I like to go there to shop because they would have figures and manga and like more exclusive stuff. But most of that crowd was like high school age because it was in the smaller town. And I remember going there because they wanted to do a girls only Magic night to get girls into the game, because a lot of girls showed up at the shop. And since me and one of my friends knew Magic and they knew we knew how to play, they're like, hey, will y'all be here to kind of like help out and stuff, because we don't want to like have the guys in there. They put us in a little back room so we wouldn't be bothered by the guys having their Yu-Gi-Oh tournament at the time. We sat there for like 2 hours trying to do a freaking tournament while these high school girls kept just dragging the guys into the room to come and talk to them. I'm like, these girls aren't here to actually play Magic. They're here to flirt with high school boys.
Yeah.
So
That's that way.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like, it's cool. I was totally one of those high school girls that used to go to the skate park because I wanted to talk to cute, smelly boys. Yeah. That didn't know how to play guitar but went on stage to play guitar anyway.
Hey, whoa.
No, this is an era where like the skate park they would do their band nights and it was all like screamo music because nobody could actually sing, so they were just like, we're just gonna scream into the mic.
I'm having PTSD just thinking about some of that stuff. For us, it wasn't a skate park, but it was like this just like wide open field that was just used for nothing. And
Oh
so for whatever
god.
reason, like high school dudes were like, "This is where we're gonna play our music now." And my
Yeah.
brother was very guilty of that, and he would go out there, and he had this. I don't know what it is about metal bands, but they always are like feel like they have a certain like way that they have to like hold the mic,
Mm-hmm.
and like they have like their own weirdly enough style. And so it's like some people would like double hand the mic and rock back and forth as like scream things that I can't understand, nor do I want to. And then it's just like my brother who, for some reason, had the awful habit of putting one hand on the microphone and
Mm-hmm.
screaming, and one hand on his junk. And
Um.
he would just walk around like rocking out like that was like a cool pose.
Oh my
And I'm
god.
like, why did you do this? Why are you doing that still? You're doing it for so long. Stop it.
Yeah.
Also,
That's
I feel like we've gotten a little bit away from anime. I'm not
a
gonna lie.
little bit. I mean, I can segue back in that one of the guys that I fancied from one
Mm,
of the metal bands I used to go to. I went to all their CD releases because they did release a couple CDs with like 3 songs on them.
yeah,
And I had a thing for their bass player, and I had a thing for the bass player because he had anime stickers on his bass.
that's the entire reason why.
Yeah.
Were you so down bad to talk about anime to someone that you're just like, yeah, that
Yes.
guy had okay, good to know.
Yes.
Uh,
So my friend group at the time, because so this was high school for me, and I had a friend group that was like in anime, but they were in their Bleach phase. Like they
yeah.
Bleach was the hard sell for me in high school because most of them were like, oh yeah, Naruto's great, One Piece is great, like all these other anime are great. Bleach, it takes like 20 episodes to get into it, but like eventually you get into it. And I was never into it, so that's all they wanted to talk
Mm,
about. And I was like, they convinced y'all to watch it. Y'all not convincing me to watch it. This dude
yeah,
had a Death Note sticker on his base, and I didn't know what Death Note was, but I knew it was anime. And I didn't know
yeah.
how to like watch it because I didn't know how to pirate stuff at the time.
Ah, classic.
Yeah, so I smooshed up to the bass player, and then I started going over to his house while he lit up some stuff while I watched anime on his computer.
That is incredibly funny to me,
Yeah.
especially because it was a Death Note sticker, which is so mid. It's so
Yeah.
incredibly mid.
I I like it more than most people because what I don't have a problem with the way it ends. I don't have a problem with the second half that people have. Like I don't
Interesting.
I enjoyed Death Note. It is on my top 50.
Mhm.
But like I understand the criticisms. I don't understand the criticisms for the end. I will never understand the criticisms for the end.
I think it just felt for what was supposed to be like an intelligence like chess game
Mhm.
of like trying to outmaneuver each other like constantly. It felt lackluster. Like it should have been like a bigger slip up that gets him caught and it like explains everything. But it was kind of just the fact of like they were like, yeah, we were always meant to be like your undoing because once we started working together instead of against each other, it all made sense.
Yeah.
And it was like that was the part that I mean I was like I'm okay,
I
all
mean,
right,
I get it more on well, one nobody would be able to step up to L's plate because
yeah,
L like each of them kind of had a trait that L had, but they didn't have the
yes,
full package. So it worked in my mind. But the main reason like people had a problem with it, like oh, it should have ended when spoilers, I guess, for people who don't know fucking Death Note.
it's so
Um,
old at this point. If you haven't watched it, I don't know what to
uh,
tell you, man.
but when L dies, people are like, "Oh yeah, it should have ended there." I'm like, no, it would have been so unsatisfying because before L dies, you don't hate Light. Like there's his character downfall doesn't happen till after that, and it's so glorious to watch it happen. It's so glorious to see him get so egotistical and make that downward spiral
Yep,
and just like slowly lose everything he was trying to protect without even
yep,
realizing it, and
yep.
it's such a good play, but like you can't kill him off before then.
Yeah.
And you also can't have this keep going between him and L forever because then it's not gonna work. The
Yeah.
reason you hate L or like the most is because of, well, first what he does to L, then later what he does to his
Mm.
own father. Um,
Yep.
and then like that's just the first step. So seeing him meet his downfall at the end because he just got way too egotistical, that he just got way too full of himself, that he was able to make these little bitty slip ups. Like they weren't big, but he was worried about the wrong things at the wrong time and
Mm.
walk straight into a trap without even realizing. Like I thought that was poetic in a way. Like it's not predictable because
No, for sure.
we are trying to predict the same thing he's trying to predict. You think he's so big brain. You like, oh yeah, I agree with him. He knows what he's doing. He's got this this near guy
That's
ain't
true.
shit. And then they're like, oh yeah, actually, y'all are both wrong. Like I love that.
Yeah.
And then
That's fair.
Ryuk getting the final end to it all, like, as it should have been, and just flying
Mm.
off. It was like, oh, I've had my fun. I'm gone.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that I agree with part of it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I do agree to an extent that it was more poetic in that.
Mm-hmm.
And also even the like ending scene where they like confront him and everything, I think is well crafted and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly been a while since I've rewatched it, so maybe I do need to give it the old college try and go back.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's been 10 years at this point, I think. But like I don't know, it just felt like I wanted something more. Like it left something to be desired in a way that I can't even like fully put into words.
That's fair. I think if
But
you don't go into it expecting the predictable outcome, you
yeah.
enjoy it a lot more.
Mhm.
Which is what I respect. Like I'm okay with a good predictable outcome. I don't
Yeah,
mind if
for
I
sure.
can see where it goes. I mean, I fucking love fairy tale. You can predict that nobody's gonna fucking, well, somebody does die, but you can predict that
Yeah.
the main cast is gonna die. They're gonna win the fight. It's
Yeah.
gonna save the day. Like I don't mind
Yeah.
that. It's fine, but it's
I
nice to see
actually
that not
hate when they
happen.
go the opposite way with things like a Kame ga kill, right?
Oh yeah.
Where it's like I mean, I guess it's predictable in a sense, but it's like the opposite where they're like, "Oh, dude, look at all these people that you're getting to meet and like this is the main cast. Oh, oops, all dead." And it's like,
Yeah.
why are you doing this just to try to keep us on our toes? Why are you doing all these weird things that like don't make sense? I don't get it. Why? Where are we going? Sometimes predictability is good, even if it is safe.
Mhm. I feel like that's the case for a lot of series right now, which is why I'm not
Mm-hmm.
too big into things like Demon Slayer, My Hero, Chainsaw Man, JJK. Like I've tried all of them to a
Mm-hmm.
degree, but I do feel like they are just a little too on the nose with like you know. I mean, I already feel like at the end of My Hero Academia, Deku isn't going to beat Shigaraki. He's going to convert him to be good. He's gonna
Yeah.
save him, and I'm like, I've been predicting that since season
Like,
4,
yeah,
and
the season, dude. I've been sitting that since the beginning because of like how he's gone. I'm like, the whole like thing is supposed to be like a heartwarming story of a kid who had no powers and like his come up through it, and like, so he's like more compassionate towards people and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's just bad predictability. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I've never seen somebody so hand fed their powers in a long
Mhm.
run and shown in my life, and that says a lot considering we have characters who are essentially grandfathered their powers through inheritance, or like
Yeah,
they learn to harness the power that they were cursed with initially. Like,
yeah,
but those are more compelling to me than just like, oh yeah, you haven't done anything with your life for your entire dream. Like you just like, I want to be a hero, but you haven't actually done anything. Well, here, I'm gonna hand feed you a training regimen to do for a
mhm,
month, and then force feed you a power.
yeah,
And I'm like, you know how much farther along he would have fucking been if he would have actually like, physically trained. It don't take much
yeah,
for him to go on a jog and like actually get physically fit.
yeah. It is crazy that he trained for like a month and he's like, yeah, you can use a good portion of my power now. It's like, what? All it took was like a month? I
Right.
feel like you give this man like 2 years in a forest and then he's gonna come out. He's like, all right, guys, I'm all mine now.
This is why I thought Black Clover was the better sell, because Black Clover, same concept. He had no power,
Yeah.
and but he was training. Like he was like, I'm
Mm.
gonna drink this juice and I'm gonna do all these sit-ups and one
Yeah.
day it's gonna awaken my magic of power somehow. Of course, it never
Yeah.
fucking happened, but he did
Yeah.
get some form of ability. But
Yeah, but also
like,
the ability playing around his like lack of ability was
hmm
also more interesting than like just, oh, you got super strength now.
it's also stated that he wouldn't be able to wield his ability without all the training he did because apparently those swords are super fucking heavy and
Yeah.
it's because he got so swole and did all the hard work to be able
Yeah.
to use it. So
Yeah.
like it's
Agreed.
such a better protagonist. It's so much more like as for the flaws that Black Clover has,
Mm.
which are mostly in the beginning with the
Oh,
screaming,
bro.
which is better in the dub. Like this
The
is the
screaming, sure, yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
But like it's so much. I can get behind a good character more than anything. Like that's my first draw in any anime is like I want a character I
A thousand
like.
percent. Yep.
The
A
world
thousand percent.
building is great. Um, I don't like things that have a shit ton of exposition, at
Mhm.
least bad exposition. If you can do it
Yep.
creatively, I much prefer it.
Yep.
And art style is like my least worrisome thing. Like I don't care what it looks like. And
Yeah.
care. So
I think that there's some limits to that for whatever reason for me. Like I don't know what it is. And even though I like Gurren Lagann, I don't like Kill la Kill. I don't know
yeah,
what it is. There's something about it that just like I'm just not interested. But
yeah.
also it's like so for me, I value character development more than I value most things in story.
hmm
Right up there with like world building. But for me, it also doesn't even have to be the main character necessarily, as long as someone who is relevant or prevalent in the story throughout a good chunk of it.
Right.
Right? Like, so if it's like being completely honest, like Luffy is a great character, but at the same time, Luffy's not what I'm interested in as much as I am in like Zoro. Mostly
Exactly.
through like the Alabasta arc and stuff. Whenever he's like talking to Chopper about like the dynamic of the crew and like breaking it down, or the moments where he has to like step up as a vice captain and be more serious whenever everyone's more relaxed. I love that shit. That is what I live for in like a character, and obviously not the main character, but it's who I'm personally rooting for.
Right. And I would say the same thing for like Fairy Tale because I Lucy is kind of the main character, but she's probably
Yeah,
the least compelling character in the entire show. But I watch it for everything else. Um,
agreed. My
for
Gray is my goat. Elfman, my
yeah,
goat.
exactly. Another like I guess newer one. This one finished last season where I can't. I don't. I wouldn't say I can't stand him. He grew on me by the end of the series, but I
Mhm.
hated him in the beginning. Buchigiri. It aired last season. It just finished.
Mhm.
And it's
I'll cross my. I haven't seen that yet, but I have seen it on Crunchyroll as like a recommended.
yeah. It's really good. It's really goofy.
Um,
If you're okay with like the satirical comedy of with your battle anime, you're going to love it. But
oh,
all
for
the
sure.
side characters in that show are so fucking good. The main character is kind of cringe because he gets this power to be really strong, but he has to say his like ultimate dream in the world, which his ultimate dream is to lose his virginity. So he has to scream, "I want to lose my virginity," and he gets super buff all of a sudden and takes on fights. But
Classic. Okay, yeah.
yeah. But like all the other characters and like the way they interact and the entire world that they built for it is so cool. The character design is actually phenomenal. Um and it's just fun. It's 12 episodes of just fun, goofy action for no reason. And
That's fair.
again, main character kind of cringe, but rest of the cast makes up for it.
Okay, what is your? Because we talked about this a little bit in DMs. What is your anime hot take? Is it a series? Is it a specific niche thing that happens in a lot of anime? Is it a certain
I
style? What is your hot take?
I have so many hot takes.
Okay.
Oh my god. Um I will I guess I'll say Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a failed reboot adaptation.
Oh, that's a hot take for sure.
Yeah. Uh
Interesting. Why? I gotta know. I'm not gonna judge you for it yet, but I do need to know why.
so the problem with so you have the original Fullmetal Alchemist series, which I
Mm-hmm.
hold in very high regard because it
Mm-hmm.
does the beginning of the series of the manga very well. It
Mm-hmm.
does all the
Agreed.
arcs to completion. It fully
Mm-hmm.
fleshes out all the characters. It does all the development. It takes itself very seriously, and then at the end is when it goes anime only, which, in my opinion, I don't mind the ending for the
Yeah.
original. Like, I actually really like it. It tied in a lot of loose ends that I really liked, but that's neither here nor there. It did the beginning very well. Brotherhood,
Agreed. Yeah.
Brotherhood put those 26 episodes of character
It's like 30.
development into 7 episodes.
Yeah, that's about right.
And the first episode is complete filler because they needed a way to quickly introduce everybody because one, they didn't do all the arcs.
Yep.
And then they run through all the arcs, and then they, to cheap out on like a budget, I guess an animation budget, they do a lot of like slapstick humor where they make Ed, or not Ed, Al, like kind of stick figurey borderlines with just a gray blob, a lot for comedic value. Doesn't need to be there. It's obvious it's there just because they don't want to animate him all the time. But they introduce a lot of humor. They play out scenes very differently. Like the Nina Tucker scene, the iconic one. It's done so quickly and so less dramatic that it kind of loses. Like it's still traumatic, but if you compare it to the scene from the original, it's not the same. It's not even on the same level. But because you lose all that character development and stuff, you don't have that attachment to go along with the rest of the series. So the only way to have that proper attachment is to watch the original, which nobody's going to go back and watch the original because everyone just tells them to watch Brotherhood. Whereas, like, a proper adaptation should be something you can watch solely on its own and still get the full story of the manga, which you're not getting with Brotherhood. So it's a failed adaptation.
I can respect your point of view there, honestly, because I do agree 1000%, and I've said this openly, that I think the beginning of Brotherhood is definitely the weakest, because it's just like all the development, even in the initial part where it's just like them going to the cathedral and confronting like the priest dude.
Yep.
It's like that is like a whole thing, and Rose is like a bigger character in that whole arc.
Yep.
And she's like nothing in like the Brotherhood adaptation.
Yeah.
I think where I draw the line is that it felt towards the end, the adaptation of Sloth being, obviously this is spoilers for an old anime, but Sloth ending up being their mom.
Yeah.
I hated. I thought it was so stupid because it's like it felt like they were taking something that was like a fundamental like truth about the world and breaking it because they were like, oh, this will be more traumatizing to the character and therefore it'll be more interesting. But in the world that they're in, with the way that it works, like alchemy wise, it was supposed to be this like super evil, this was a disgusting creature and it was failed, and because they did the taboo.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh yeah, but someone else came by later and grabbed her and then, you know, made her fight. It was all fine at the end of it. She was just disgusting and thing at the beginning.
I mean, that's fair. I don't exactly love what they did with the chimera, or not chimeras, the homunculi in the original, but I do like it better than the Brotherhood version. And this isn't like isn't a full like hash against why I think Brotherhood is a failed adaptation, because it's still a manga adaptation on that front. But I feel like it's more compelling to have the villains be that close to the main character and the main cast, because it's not just Ed and Al's mom, it's also Izumi's son, and then they have to confront this whole thing and take responsibility for the sins that they have done. Whereas in Brotherhood, it's just, this dude that's been sitting on the toilet for like 100 years reading manga and just cut out his emotions, and now they're the bad guys.
Yeah. I see your points on these things. I don't necessarily think that I 100% agree, because I think there's more to the main bad guy than just that. But at the same time, I do understand.
Yeah.
I also think that as far as like the homunculus goes, I actually prefer most of the Brotherhood versions, except for maybe Greed. I actually really liked how Greed was written and done in the original, and because it was just like he was just like punished because he was actually like selfish and self-involved to the extent that he just like fucked himself over and got the other people to turn on him. And
Yeah.
then it became like he in Brotherhood he's like an ally, which doesn't really make sense for like his personality. And it was
No.
so weird. I don't know.
The way they fused him in with Ling and they made it that whole thing and they're like, oh well, Ling still has control sometimes. I'm like, that I didn't like that. If
Yeah,
he
I
took
agree.
over Ling's body, I think I would have
It should have
liked it
been
more.
purely greed.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
I also like the villain in the original a lot better. The whole concept of Dante and Ednal's father having that tie-in, and
Mm.
the theme of Dante, like that freaking chorus of the hums that still gives me chills every time I fucking hear it. Like it, it's a little bias on that one, but like that's still just my preference over one versus the other. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm like, people claiming something's getting the Brotherhood treatment pisses me off so much because one, Brotherhood's not the first time we've had an adaptation of a previously done series where it's supposed to be more faithful to the manga, but it's for some reason the most popular, and it's one of the few ones that has gotten it wrong. Like, you had a second go at it and you got it wrong.
Yeah.
Because Hellsing Ultimate's amazing. The Fruits Basket 2019 is amazing.
Fruits Basket is incredible, yes.
The Dororo readaptation was amazing. I even like the Trigun Stampede, even though I know a lot of people
haven't watched it yet. I was worried because I hold Trigun deep down in my heart, like nostalgically, like it's very important to me.
Yeah.
And it looks good. It looks great.
Can I say one sentence that is going to slightly be a spoiler, but it's going to help you probably get through it a lot easier as somebody that's a huge Trigun fan as well?
Yeah, go for it.
It's a prequel.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So you know how Trigun starts with he doesn't have memories of like anything, and like they say he destroyed the city, which is why his bounty is so high.
Yeah.
That city still exists in Stampede. And
interesting.
Yeah. So this is before he destroyed the city and lost his memories. So any changes in his character are going to be because he still has his memories and stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's like, so is it a prequel all the way through? Because it seems like he meets like the priest and everything, like the guy with like the cross and everything. Like he's in the art for like the cover of it anyway.
So there is some like crossover over the bounds and stuff like and I don't know how much of this is and manga specific because like I've never read the manga of it. I've been told, and I don't take this as a face value because I don't believe everything I've heard on the internet, but I was told that it follows the manga more faithfully, so he does meet the priest. The original Trigun anime was done before the manga was finished or something, so it went on its own tangent in a way. And there will be a second season. So we just haven't gotten a full announcement for it yet.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so there will be more. It was really good. If you can, the CGI, the 3D animation was so well done. There was times I forgot I was watching 3D. The fight sequences are great. I think his character is very on par for what Vash is. The world building's amazing, and you get more of the past stuff, which was my big selling point for it. Was like, we did not get a lot of story in the original on him and Knives' past. You get that with this. So, and boy, is it good.
Maybe I'll give it a try then. I'll check it out then, because that makes it easier on my mind than just like as a complete like rehaul.
It is again a readaptation, but it's like they're doing the prequel thing and the opening. I don't know if you heard the opening.
I actually haven't, surprisingly. I don't know why.
I would highly suggest like looking that up after this and listening to it, because it is in my top 3 anime openings of all time.
Oh, okay. That's high praise. All right, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Right there alongside the first opening for season 2 of Vinland Saga River.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So you've watched Vinland Saga, huh?
Yep.
How do you feel about it?
I love it. I fucking enjoyed every second of it. I like the second season more than I like the first season, but
Mm,
I also I had that opinion on Attack on Titan as well. Like everyone was hyped about the
mm,
first season, but I felt like it was too fast paced, too action packed, too like, oh, cliffhanger, 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 which
yeah.
is fine to get
Mm,
people into a series, but I think once it's done too much, I get burnt out.
yeah.
So
That's fair.
seeing season two where it took things slower, where I could I guess relate more to a character, like
Mm,
obviously not fully relate, but I guess empathize with a character
yeah.
because he is going through his development through the series. And it's in a very very unique way done, like not a way I can compare it to any other anime I've seen or any other work of fiction I've read or whatever.
I agree.
So
It's
I loved
very
it.
different.
Mm-hmm.
I am of the opposite opinion to you, where it's like I loved the first season
Yeah.
and I loved the setup. I did not. It's not even that I think it's bad. It's
Mm-hmm.
necessarily more that I just think it's not for me, because
Okay.
what I was wanting from the first one was towards the end. Again, spoilers. Towards
Mm-hmm.
the end of the first season, whenever everything's going down with Askeladd and like the whole like them trying to get the prince into power,
Mm-hmm.
I was like excited because I love like political like drama kind of stuff.
Right.
So I was like, oh, there's gonna be like a whole power show. There's gonna be like a lot of like ins and outs and like like them having to deal with like laws and trying to find roundabout ways of like doing certain things. And it's gonna be like very spy heavy and it's gonna be a very different feel from what this first season was.
Yeah.
And then everything goes to shit.
I get
And
that.
basically it just takes a turn from what I was expecting. And the second one of it was a very slow pace, very different, of
Mm-hmm.
like him trying to discover himself, trying to realize like the hauntings of his past and like all the anger and stuff that he held, and trying to let that go. It's just not what I was wanting from the anime, and so whenever I like experienced it, I was like, it's not bad, not what I was craving, because I think Askeladd was such a good and powerful setup that he felt I kind of wanted more Askeladd, I guess. I guess
Right.
Askeladd being killed off was heartbreaking from a story or a narrative perspective.
That's
Obviously,
fair.
bastard, and deserved to be killed. Not gonna sit there and say that, but very well done adversary, in my opinion, or
I
negative
can
character.
understand where you're coming from there because I would have enjoyed more political as well because I do a lot, like a good political struggle, which is why I
Mm.
enjoyed like later parts of Attack on Titan more than season one.
Yep, fair.
But I feel like, and I could be completely wrong on this because I don't read the manga, obviously, but
Yep.
I feel like the next season is going to deal more political. I feel like first season was like the setup, the second season was his character growth, and I feel like third season
Mm.
we're going to see more of this aftermath of this political struggle that did happen, and we're because
Mm.
we do get the look into what you call it, what's his name, the
The
king
prince,
prince,
yeah.
yeah, and like what he's doing right now, which is um obviously not completely on par with our main character's
Yeah.
storyline. So I feel like this is going to be a clash that's going to happen further down the line, and I feel like we're going to get more brought into that world. So I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just
That's fair.
speculating. So
I'd be excited for it if that was what happened.
mhm.
But it's like, yeah, I just didn't know. I also didn't know if there was, because I haven't read the manga either. I
Mhm.
don't know how much of that is still going, or if it's like finished, or whatever.
That one I'm not sure on actually. I know a lot of people. I don't think it's finished, just
Mm.
because anytime a manga series finishes, it ends up being talk of the town because everyone ends up shitting on the ending because nobody
Of
can have an
course, yeah.
ending. It is still ongoing, so
Okay,
yeah,
good to know.
yeah. Let's. The minute a manga finishes, the manga readers are immediately like, "Oh, the ending was
Yeah.
trash. Stop watching the anime. We know we hyped this up, but like, stop watching
Uh,
it."
yeah, dude, it's just like I feel like it's so hard to like live up to the expectations of some of the people in like the community for like anime or manga,
Yeah,
because it's like it feels so unrealistic. Like, well, don't get me wrong, I do think the ending of like One Piece is something that will kind of make or break the series as a whole.
right.
I think that people are so harsh about some of the endings that like I've seen. I'm like, I'll just sit there and I'm like, I didn't think it was that bad. But it feels
Right.
like I feel like an outcast or like thinking that in a weird way.
it I have my own qualms with like especially like manga readers specifically,
Hmm.
but I feel like the anime community has become an echo chamber of essentially the manga readers where something gets hyped because
Hmm.
the manga readers are like, "Oh, this anime is going to be great because we love this manga." And then people are like, "Oh, I heard the manga was fire, so the anime is going to be good." And then like the anime comes out and people talk about it for 3 episodes and then nobody talks about it ever after except for like
Yep.
the manga readers who are like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And then it ends and like, "Oh, they ruined the anime adaptation." I'm like,
Yep.
because that's happened with Oshi no Ko, that happened with Chainsaw Man, and it's like they
Yep.
make the excuse like, oh, they didn't adapt the good part yet, like it's gonna get better, and I'm like,
Hmm.
you can't hype something up if you're like, it's not gonna get good until 20 volumes in. I'm sorry,
Yeah, yeah, for
like,
sure.
like just let things get hype naturally as they should.
Uh, I agree. I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's one of my reasons why I'm like very hit or miss on like people always say with like One Piece, and there've been a few other things, but it's always the one that comes to mind. They're like, oh, once you get to Arlong Park, you'll really get like sucked into it. I'm like, that's like 30 something episodes in. Like, I know it doesn't seem like a lot to us because we watched like 1,000 episodes, but for the average person, that's a lot of like consumption of media. If you're not into like it by the like third or fourth episode, to me, you should
Mm-hmm.
probably give up on One Piece.
I'm
Yes, it gets better, but is it really worth it?
I agree. I feel like you saying, "Oh, you have to get to a certain part to enjoy it," is just you admitting that it's bad. Like
Yeah.
I will say like, "Oh, you're really going to like this arc when you get to it, but if you
Yes.
don't enjoy it before you get to this part, don't bother getting to it."
Yes.
Uh
1,000%.
because that was the Bleach excuse years ago was like everyone you got into Naruto early because they came in fucking swinging with this whole backstory thing and him finding out about the nine-tailed fox and him
Hmm.
learning about his teacher and being
Yeah.
murdered by the fox, his parents getting murdered by the fox, and then it goes straight into the land of waves. Like
Yep.
it
Oh,
was so fucking fire. One
what a
Piece,
fucking banger opening arc too.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
One Piece, it was like it was goofy, it was funny, and which is exactly what it is all the way through. You fall in love with the character. You get
Yep.
introduced to Zoro right away, which is essentially the strong one of the strongest characters in the entire main cast.
Yep.
And if you're not compelled when you meet Zoro to continue watching the series, don't fucking watch the series.
1,000%.
Like Bleach was the one where like, oh, you gotta get into the Soul Society before it actually gets good. Like, which is 20 episodes into the fucking series.
I was about to say I couldn't remember exactly what episode that was, but I was like, that's a decent ways in as
Mm-hmm.
well, right?
Yeah. Like, and I kind of agree. I struggled to get into Bleach, and I had a lot of friends that also struggled, but once they got into Soul Society, they're like, "Oh, this is actually really good." And they got sucked into it, and I was just like, it's okay, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was into it because there were characters I enjoyed, but the characters I enjoyed didn't get enough screen time, so I kind of lost interest because I liked a lot of the captains, but a lot of the
Yep.
captains I
Same.
liked don't get a lot of screen time. They're focusing on just freaking Rukia and Renji and uh whatchamacallit, Aizen, and that was
Mhm.
it. And I was like, I want to see more of the others. The others seem cooler.
Yep. I
Like
agree.
so.
Like honestly, in the Soul Society, when all the captains are kind of duking out and you're seeing their like power, like everybody loves Kimpachi. Like let's be
Yeah.
real, because it's like he's a good character with like his whole thing of like trying to figure out his place in the world with like this insane strength
Mm-hmm.
and like not being able to find anything that like satisfies or thrills him
Yeah.
is cool. It's a good character,
It gets
but it's
boring
like
after a while.
yeah, it does get boring after a while. It's like yeah, eventually I want him to either like find that satisfaction in something else. You can't just keep having him be stronger and stronger, which is the part where I started to like get annoyed.
Which
But it's
you
like,
know when
oh,
he finds that in the second season of Thousand Year Blood War.
oh really? Oh my
Yes.
god, dude,
Like
it's
what
so long.
I know. Like and it was kind of anticlimactic. It was
Uh,
kind of cool, but it was also like there was a what the fuck moment for me because I have not had. I've had spoilers for Bleach,
Yep.
mostly just Ichigo being a nepo baby of everything. Um,
Mm.
but there was some spoilers that somehow flew over my head. So when I learned certain aspects about Kenpachi, I was like, "Holy fuck, that's kind of cool." Not cool enough for me to care, but
Yeah.
that was fucking cool.
Okay, is it just me too, or is it just like all the characters like main cast? I just didn't care
Didn't
about
either.
like at all. Like the only one that I was like kind of okay with was like Chad.
I was
Like,
gonna say my favorite one was probably Uryu at the very beginning when he was introduced
mm,
as an antagonist.
yeah, yeah,
But
that's
then
fair.
when he kind of joined them, he lost his edge, and now I'm just kind of like, all right,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. Because
good.
it was like that was the whole thing of like the tension between them because he was like a Quincy and he was like a Soul Reaper or whatever. But
Yeah,
it's just like and then they just basically took that away. They're like, oh, that doesn't matter anymore. I'm like, why? What do you mean? And then I think apparently at some point in like the newer seasons they went back to that,
yeah.
or like it's readdressed.
He so the main bad guys are ancestral Quincy's, and
Mm,
they're attacking the Soul Society because they're Quincy's and they hate Soul Reapers.
yep,
That is all I've managed to gain, and Oryu is on the Quincy side basically because he's like,
gotcha.
yeah, I don't know these people, but I hate my dad, so I'm joining them or some shit.
Oh
I don't know,
my
you
god.
know. It's like I respect for what it is because it is one of the big three. It got a lot of people in the anime.
Yeah,
It
same.
deserves its place there. I'm not saying that.
Mhm.
It is still the weakest and is the most boring.
How do you feel about like you've heard people like compare some of the newer animes like Jujutsu Kaisen and stuff to the new big three, right? How do you feel about that? How do you feel that they hold up in comparison to those like big titles?
Okay, for one thing, there is no such thing as a new big three
Yeah,
because the
agreed.
big three has that title because they are the three gateway anime that people got into. If you started anime around that time,
Hmm.
you started on at least one of them. You didn't
Yep.
have to all be all three of them, but you watched Naruto, One Piece, or Bleach, and that was like
Yep.
your pillar of like what anime was at the time.
Hard
Um,
agree.
but there are have been new gateway anime that I think have come close. I do not think JJK is one of them. Um, I think Attack on Titan is the closest we have gotten to a boom
Hmm.
for a contender
Yeah.
because there were so many normies watching Attack on Titan season 1 without even knowing what it was. And they're like, "Oh, this is fucking anime. This is fucking hype. This is crazy. I've never seen shit like
Yep.
this." It brought so many people into anime. It came in so strong, and it's a lot of people's first anime, and
Hmm.
it does. I think it deserves recognition. Where it fumbled the ball was the fucking 6 year break it had to take to do season 2.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's maintained a good pace since then, but I think it because of that it can't really be a contender for a big spot. Um, and I think the next level would be My Hero. As much as I hate to say it, as much as I hate My Hero, it's an easy gateway for a lot of younger anime
Yeah, I
fans
agree.
because it's superheroes.
Yeah.
So most people start with My Hero and they don't finish with My Hero. They're like, oh, well, I watched something better, so I'm dropping this and I'm watching something else now. But
Yeah.
I think it's done well. I think Demon Slayer has also done really well because it's very pretty and flashy, but I think it has too much Japanese undertone for a normie audience to get into.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and JJK is way too Japanese heavy for it to bring in a normie audience. People that get into
Yeah.
JJK are already anime fans, so I don't think
Yep.
it even
Agreed.
gets close.
To me, JJK was, in my opinion, this. I like JJK, and I think it's a step in the right direction of what Bleach should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like the same like overall vibes, right? Of like there's like these things that are based off of like the negative energy and like the world that become like monsters and that haunt people and like make their lives miserable. And that was like basically what the Hollows were at the beginning of Bleach.
Right.
And then it's like them basically finding a society or like a little group or community that like takes care of those things.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have is Jujutsu Kaisen is one of the few I've 3 times I have um, gotten ahead of the anime and read the manga in my life. and one
Okay.
of those is One Piece, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a huge One Piece head. But I hate Jujutsu Kaisen's manga with a burning passion in my heart. It is so needlessly complicated and convoluted and just like pretentious, and I won't spoil anything for anyone because obviously this is stuff that's still currently going on. But there's a lot of like it's doing things that I didn't like in like shows like Game of Thrones, where it's like people are dying for the sake of dying, and it's like perfectly good characters that could have been developed into so much more, but they thought the shock of killing them was better, and so they just did that.
Right.
And I'm like, that's so like brainless of someone to do, like as like a writer and stuff. It's like you could do this so much better. Oh, and then not to mention the whole like you have to rely on Gojo for goddamn everything.
I
Everyone else is
just
apparently an impotent like baby that just can't do anything.
yeah. I couldn't get into it. Like I know most of the spoilers from it just because the JJK fan base is horrible about keeping shit under wraps, especially from their manga counterpart.
Yep.
And I could care less because so I watched season 1 and I hated
Yep.
it because I didn't like any
Okay.
of the characters. All the characters were boring. I was like, it's a cool concept. It's a cool world.
Yep.
Weirdo fucking main character just decides to swallow a fucking finger.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like
agree.
I, you couldn't pay me enough to even put that in my mouth, and he did it multiple times and decided to swallow that shit. Um, doesn't really. I don't really understand his motivation for wanting to like actually agree to it. Like, yeah, sure, they was either that or he dies, but like he didn't really put up a fight on it either way. He was just like, oh, whatever. I guess I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
The Sakura Sasuke counterparts are somehow worse than Sasuke and Sakura.
I agree with the Sasuke part. The Sakura part, I disagree. I think she's a much more interesting character than Sakura ever was. And I wanted Sakura to be interesting, but I just never. She was apparently interesting in Boruto and had some good moments.
She has,
I never finished Boruto because I watched like 50 episodes of it and I just did not like it.
She just reminds me of like early Sakura, where Sakura was just always angry at Naruto, and that's just the vibe I got. Like she
grows a lot in the manga and like later in the anime, but yeah, I do understand that. That is fair.
I hadn't gotten that far, so I was just like, I don't like this. Gojo walks up, and I'm like, who the fuck is this weird Kakashi knockoff? And then I was like, hey, oh, he's gonna be cool. He's gonna have like some special eye power or something. That's why he's got to keep his eyes covered or whatever. I'm like, this is gonna be great. I can get behind this. And then he reveals his eyes, and they're just sparkly, and I'm like,
yeah, I did feel like the Twilight reveal.
Yeah,
like it's like, oh, dude, he glitters. Oh,
yeah,
cool, isn't he so hot?
So I was like, yeah, that's not for me. That's not the female gaze I'm after.
That's fair.
So I was like, I'm good with leaving it at season 1. I didn't have any interest, and then the Zero movie came out, and one of my friends was like, hey, I got 2 tickets. I dumped my girlfriend, but I have a second ticket. You want to come watch this movie with me? I'm like, free movie, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Movie was fucking great. Okay.
Yeah, movie's incredible. I loved it.
And you know why I loved it? Because I loved that main cast.
Yep.
I loved oh god, not Yuji Yugo, Utah.
Yeah.
Something. Names are all similar. That's another problem I have with it. All the names are too similar to each other.
I agree.
But
keep it all straight.
His whole story was fucking great. The 3 other guys, the panda, the sushi dude, and the green-haired chick, fucking phenomenal. Loved them.
Yep.
Loved their dynamic. Loved that entire story.
Yep.
If second season would have been all about them, I would have been all for it. Second season was somehow some backstory about Sparkly Eyes Gojo and his himbo friend, and I didn't understand a lot of it, and I was like, I feel like if they would have spent more time to let it breathe and like let some characters kind of flush out a bit more, other than just like, yeah, this weird thing happened, and it's somehow correlated to this other weird thing that happened, and then this chick died. And I'm like,
yeah,
I probably would have liked it a bit better, but I didn't. And then we go straight into this big old fight, and I'm like, the fights are kind of cool, but I don't like any of the characters, so I'm kind of hoping they all die. I
feel like I agree 100% with you there.
Yeah.
It's like all these characters, like especially like what you're talking about from the movie, I love those characters, and they had such potential to be fleshed out more.
Mm-hmm.
And but just like in the manga, it's just bad. Like where
Yeah.
it goes is bad, and then there's such like I don't know.
Yeah. So like
Maybe I'm a stickler. Maybe I'm up my own ass about like how things are written, how characters develop. But like you just could be doing so much better.
well, I heard somebody else I watched their content on it, and they were saying that a lot of anime retention these days is very short-sighted, where people are looking for these
Yep.
sparkly bits. They want the cool punchy fights. They don't
Mhm.
care about letting things breathe. They don't care about letting things sit and
Mhm.
kind of get the flavor for what they're watching. They
Yep.
just want they want the demon slayer. They want the flashy fights even if they're not that
Mhm.
good. They want the pretty sparkly eyes hot dudes in their
Mhm.
punchy anime. They don't really care about the substance there. And I agree, like, because that is kind of what's happening right now.
TikTok brain rot, dude. It's
Yeah,
it's actually insane.
it
I
is.
also think that like I enjoy like I'm someone who enjoys like the flashy like fight scenes and
Hmm.
everything. But at the same time, I'm just like I've been thinking about this a lot with One Piece, and I was like, does it need to slow down more? But it's like also everything's been slowly kind of culminating to this big moment that I don't think he can.
Yeah,
But I miss early like pre time skip One Piece where it's like there was a lot more goofing about. There's a lot more like letting things breathe and like
yeah.
taking time to explore islands before the big thing kicked off, and
Hmm. I
I
agree
just don't feel
because
like you get that.
Zhao and Cake Island and Wano did just kind of jump right into like let's do the bad guy stuff very
Yeah,
fast.
yeah,
So uh I don't know. Another thing I kind of miss, and like especially my punchy shonen anime, I miss like visual power ups. Like uh, they don't really have that in any of them. Like My Hero, Demon Slayer, JJK. Like I guess he gets the tattoo thingies for his power up, but that's like the only one really. He just gets the
yeah,
tattooies. Um, I mean Naruto, he gets the Sage mode, he gets the Bijou
yep,
cloak and all that stuff, and
yeah. That's a good point.
One Piece, he gets all these different gears. I haven't even
Yep.
seen. Well, I've seen, but I haven't watched the newest
Oh,
transformation.
it's
Like,
so good in like a super derpy way. I
yeah,
love it.
and like even Bleach, and this is the one thing I really liked about Bleach was the Bankais. The transformation
Yep.
for Ichigo's Bankai with just like the
Mhm.
really cool cloak and the sleek sword. I was like,
Mm.
this is fucking badass.
Do
But
you think we're biased in that because we grew up, especially off of the back of like Dragon Ball Z and all this stuff, where like that was what like signified all this stuff and kickstarted like the like the physical difference in like power ups?
I do think there is some bias there, but I do also think there's some truth there because if it was pure bias, we wouldn't have new age anime fans having the same issues.
True. Yeah,
So
that's fair.
I think there is a large audience for the brain rot for the generation that they just want the cool sword fights and they don't want the extra transformations. But I don't think there's that much of an audience that's like, oh yeah, transformation's bad.
Mm.
Like I think most anime fans still agree transformations are really fucking cool, and they're not going to
Agreed.
complain if they get one.
Yeah, like this is the thing that like dudes and I feel like anybody of any gender like agrees on like because you had Sailor Moon's like whole transformation thing, you had like
Exactly.
Dragon Ball Z's transformation thing. Everyone just loves a pretty wardrobe change, and we don't care. We want something going on. We want something interesting with the character. And you're right, we don't really
Exactly.
get that anymore.
Yeah, I'm like
That's
most you're
really
gonna
sad.
get in My Hero is gonna be like
He
some costume
glows, I
changes.
guess. I
Yeah,
don't know.
like I guess his outfit changes. He got a little dingy last I saw. His outfit got a little tore up.
Yeah, I
He got a little
actually
scruffy
really
scarf.
like that arc as like a character development arc, but at the same time, like man, yeah, there's just like zero difference.
I
Also, my thing with Hit My Hero is that I don't even like the main characters that they surround. I just really like
Yeah.
Kirishima, my boy.
Yeah, there's a good amount of like side characters I enjoy.
Hmm.
Generally, the side characters I enjoy are not the ones that are popular.
Nope.
I do not understand the female gaze in that show at all. Why is the female gaze going to Mr. Krusty, the Living Scab, and Sleepy Dad? Like,
Well, that was what a way to describe those characters.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong, but at the same time, I was just like thinking, like, dude, the male gaze is on point. The male gaze is like, oh, dude, meet her as mom, and like whatever is in the flashback,
Uh-huh.
built like a Pixar mom. We're here for it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't get it.
That's fair.
But I've watched I didn't finish the last season. I dropped last season and then somebody told me something to hype up the last season. They're like, "Oh no, you got to get to this part. It's so fucking good." And then it was so like non-issue. It's such a thing. I'll fucking spoil. I don't fucking care. My Hero fans don't watch this.
Mm.
Midnight's Death.
Oh yeah.
If they're like, "Oh, somebody really important dies, you need to watch it," and I'm watching it, and I watched like the episode up to the episode they told me, and I'm like, "Who fucking died? I don't fucking know
Yeah,
who
right.
died." And then I watched a
Right.
couple more, and then they pan over like, "Oh, yeah, here's everybody crying and exposition of like, oh yeah, some people didn't make it." And you just see her hand, and I'm like,
Yeah, like who was she? She was in, like 3 episodes. Like,
I
are we really
know.
that upset over this character that got
I
no screen
know.
time and no development at all?
And then these same people are like, "Oh, Fairy Tale's bad because none of the main characters die," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, Ignil was far more important than Midnight."
It's true. At least Neil was like constantly like talked about and like
Yeah.
shown in the anime. It's just like,
Like,
yeah, I don't get that. I don't know who hyped that up to you, but they were full of it.
oh, I
Now,
blocked
if,
them.
like, you know, like Bakugo or someone fucking died, that's like, yeah, that's someone important. But like, I really wish that they'd kill All Might. I like that he's like a mentor and like a coach and stuff now, but it would have been such a better moment of like the passing of the torch if he just physically was killed.
I thought he was going to die when like because they built it up in a way that it's made it seem like, okay, once his power fully transfers over, he's going to die. I thought
Yeah.
that was what was going to happen, and then it didn't happen. And then they had the
Nope.
big fight with One for All
Yep.
or All for One, All for One.
All for one.
And I thought, like, oh, he's gonna die here. Didn't die, and I'm like, oh my god,
Yep.
can he just like fucking leave? Like, why is he still here?
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, imagine how. So you have like the Zoro moment in One Piece where it's like him
Mhm.
standing and saying nothing happened. You
Yeah.
could have had a similar moment with like All Might ending the thing with like his last punch and just die standing up with his fist
Yeah.
raised. Would have been such a sick moment. And then you just go, oh no, yeah, he's like a retired like teacher now.
You know how I know
What?
they're never gonna fucking do that? It's because, and
How's that?
this is because I got spoiled on this, and I'm so pissed I got spoiled on because it was the one thing I really liked in My Hero Academia. Stain.
Oh yeah.
Stain isn't dead.
Yep.
How the fuck? Yeah, that is the most pivotal moment in freaking the My Hero series
agree.
to date. That was the hypest moment that series ever had. It's been downhill ever fucking since. And then
I
you're gonna
agree.
tell me like his death was like non-existent and they kept it a secret? Why? Hold on, why?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just like, okay, also, this is a thing that I have. Okay, I want to know your take on this. How do you feel about anime? Because I feel like this happens a lot, especially in shonens,
Mhm.
where they talk about something like urgent thing that's gonna happen, or like for My Hero is there's a traitor amongst like the inside of UA,
Oh my god.
and then it's been like 4 seasons, and no one's talked about it or thought about it or mentioned it, and it's just been kind of glazed over. But apparently it's like a big moment, and apparently it's like happened in the manga already. But they don't talk about it in the anime at all. Like it's just like glazed over. Same thing with Attack on Titan, where they're talking about like going to the basement. I'm like, we
Mhm.
need to get back there. Then it's gonna be like a whole expedition, and they have like a whole season where they do like a bunch of political stuff and like take on the church, and that's in between like this whole thing. And it's like, why is the pacing so? They're not worried about this like life changing thing that they learned about. Why is no one talking about it? I don't get it.
it is definitely poor writing in a way because
Mhm.
it's them trying to do too many lead ups to a final goal, but not knowing how to carry them all well because
Mhm.
you kind of do it one of two ways poorly, and one of them is going to make it very obvious and very in your face where you're just like, okay, I'm tired of hearing about this, we need to skip it, there's other things you need to focus on. Or there's
Mhm.
this way where they just kind of drop it for an entire season and then they bring it up later when it becomes relevant again, which
Yeah.
I think is the slightly better way to do it, but I still don't like it because if you're a good writer, if you're good at laying down the footnotes, you're able to incorporate little mentions of things. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be
Yes.
the forefront of a conversation, but
Yes. Agreed.
incorporate it into a dialogue that happens in passing or something. Like have it
Yeah.
like it is definitely bad writing. It is not the worst writing, but it is definitely aggravating. I 100% agree with you on that. Because there's so many times that's happened. I mean, granted, that's been a
Mhm.
case for a lot of things of like dropped plot points. We're gonna encounter that in Digimon 2 when we get that whole dark what is the Dark Ocean arc that's gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
happen for like one episode and then is never talked about again. But it gets brought up again in Try, so 15 years later it'll get brought up again.
Oh, the fact that it has to take that long to have a payoff is so crazy to
It
me.
is.
But that basically is all of One Piece, so I guess, what do I know?
Yeah. I mean, but Oda does do it very well. Like a lot of his stuff that he foreshadows
Mhm.
um is done in that same fashion of it's mentioned once and then it isn't mentioned again for 2 arcs, but it's also a 1,000 episode series, so you can't bring up something every episode. Um
Yeah.
and then he also just does a lot of other Easter eggs, like there's things you wouldn't think would get brought up again, and then they do, or characters return that you didn't think you would see again, and it's really cool. So
Mhm.
there's a way to do it. I'm not a writer. Well, I write fanfic. Doesn't
Yeah.
count. I
It's
wouldn't.
writing.
Yeah, it's writing. I don't have to do in-depth world building and lead up to plot points. I just draw smut. It's fine. Uh,
That kind of. Well, okay, there's more than one kind of fan fiction. That's fair though.
I mean, I do both, or I used to do both. I don't do it anymore. Um, I used to get paid to do it, so
Mhm.
I don't get paid to do it anymore. So, but yeah, it's different from like I have to write like 10 pages of an interaction that would have happened off screen or something because somebody was like, oh yeah, I want to know like what would have happened here. Write your rendition of it, and I'm like, okay, and spelling out like filling in between the lines of something that was mentioned but never shown. Whereas somebody working with a world from the ground up and having to build this up and make it completely relevant is
Mhm.
definitely not on the same level. So,
One that is fair.
also, I love how you were like, yeah, we have a lot of difference in opinions. This is gonna
Yeah,
be interesting.
I thought it was gonna be a lot different, but I feel like most of the time, whenever you're describing why you don't like stuff, it's not from a point of where I'm like, that's unreasonable and doesn't make any sense to me, and
Mhm.
therefore dumb and stupid and ick. It's like you have your own reasons of. That's usually pretty different from the people who I talk to, where they're
Right.
like, people would just be like, "Oh, One Piece is bad because I don't like his name. I think it's
Yeah.
stupid." And they won't watch One Piece because of it. I've had a friend who told me that, and I was like, "That's the dumbest thing, the dumbest reason to not watch an entire show that I've ever heard."
Bruh.
And those are the kind of things like get me all worked up because I can't empathize or understand it.
Right.
But you're pretty descriptive about like why you don't think Full Metal Brotherhood is as good as everyone like hypes up
Yeah. I mean,
and all that stuff.
I was telling you before as well, like, one of my biggest pet peeves is that conversation does just die in the anime community now. Like, you can't talk about criticism or praise, really,
Yeah.
in an anime community. If it's not a popular opinion, they're just gonna, like, they're just gonna hard disagree without an argument, or they're going to turn it into a meme. Like, it is, and I guess we can cycle into this. My initial hatred for isekais, which is what you've known me for, is
Uh-huh.
mostly stems from the fact that I talk about isekai stuff, and not
Mm,
generally in a favorable light, but I'll try and explain it. And
mm.
then people throw a meme at me, and they're like, "Well, Digimon's an isekai," or they're like, "Oh, well, that's kind of isekai-ish, isn't it?" Like, I'm like,
Yeah, that's like the whole like everything's like a soup or a sandwich or whatever the
yeah,
fuck. It was like all like they're like, oh well, cake is lasagna. It's like fuck you.
yeah,
You know what we mean. Don't be an ass about it.
right. Because yeah, I have a genuine take on like the isekai
Mm,
as a trope, and every time I try and talk about it, I immediately get shut down with fucking people memeing and not wanting
mm.
to like even debate the topic, which is so
Okay.
frustrating because it's like I it's not something I can fully hash down as somebody that doesn't genuinely like modern isekais. I can't nail down this plot point. So I need somebody that's into isekai stuff to like have this debate with at some point because otherwise it's just me shitting on isekais, which I guess understandable if you want to like not have a conversation about it, but it, I don't understand people not wanting to enter a debate about something they enjoy. Like I love defending the things I like, and I like shitting on the things I dislike, but I like doing it in a way that's at least engaging and not just
Yeah,
uh,
for sure.
insert meme here.
Yeah. So what is exactly your huge take on isekai then? Because I've heard obviously the meme of like you're like it's bad and I don't like it, but why?
So I dislike isekais because I dislike a lot of the tropes that are associated with it.
Hmm.
And I dislike generally the world building of the aspect because a lot of it is a lot of exposition just kind of thrown in your face because you're seeing it through the eyes of the main character who is having it thrown at their face, and it's kind of lazy
Mm.
writing, and it's generally a self-insert character that I can't relate to and I don't like, and I generally don't like the harems that are in there. I like harem anime, I just don't like a lot of the tropes of the harems that I've seen in the isekais that I've
Yeah.
been watched. Um, but my take for isekai is like I think we're over categorizing it because one, it's not a genre, and we already
Mhm.
don't do genres properly within anime. Because I don't think
I don't think
people
we
understand.
do genres right as a whole. Because if you look at
Yeah.
like Steam and stuff, where
Mm-hmm.
everything's like over specific and
Yeah.
divided, it's like insane. But yeah,
Yeah.
continue. That's fair.
Yeah. So like, because like people will label say, "Oh, recommend me a romance anime," and they'll be like, "Oh, well, how about Fruits Basket?" I'm like, yes, but no.
Yeah,
Like there is
a little bit
romance
more
there, but
to it.
it's yeah. So it's like it's something along that line. But isekai isn't a genre. Before they introduced the themes aspect on Mao, I was calling
Mm.
it a title trope, much like Magical Girl, whereas
Mm.
it's in the title most of them. It's not in all of
Yeah.
them, but Maho Shoujo's there, but it isn't taken as like, oh, it just takes magical and girl to make it a magical girl show, because if that's the case, anything with magic power system and a female character is a magical girl show.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I love Magical Girl, but I'm not considering Fairy Tail, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece Magical Girl
Yeah.
series just
No,
because,
absolutely not.
yeah. So, isekai being trapped in another world, it
Mhm.
takes more for it to just be that, to be an isekai, because
Yeah.
there is a trope of like being stuck in a video game or going to another world.
Mhm.
You could say Dragon Ball Z is an isekai because they go to other worlds. What are you classifying as another world?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Does it
I
always have to be like an alternate dimension? Could it be just another planet? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think if I were to narrow it down, I would put like a little checkbox of like, here's a bunch of little tropes that are associated with it, and it has to have enough of
Mhm.
those to go in. But I also think it has to be like the main focus for it to be the theme, if we're going to
Mhm.
categorize it as a theme. Like Maho Shoujo, the main theme of those series are generally the transformation from a normal girl to a magical girl or magical boy for different
Mhm.
series. And but it's not necessarily always a physical transformation. Card Captor, Magical Girl series, no transformation sequences.
Yep.
Um, Revolutionary Girl Utena, technically she doesn't have magical powers and no transformation sequences.
Yeah.
But Isekai, I don't know how to categorize it because most of the things I would categorize with it are negative and so to speak. But
Yeah, that's fair.
there are, in my opinion, isekais that were older. It is not a new thing. Things like Fushigi Yugi or Escaflowne, where girl gets transported to another world, is stuck there, has to deal with trying to get back, and it's like the main focus for the entire series of her in this other world, in this fantasy world.
Yep.
Digimon, it spends 12 episodes trapped in the other world. And then it's like 80 episodes of them either in the real world or sometimes going to the digital world. So I don't think it falls into that, and it also just doesn't have any of the tropes associated with it.
Yep.
And that's my whole isekai take, because the minute I start talking about that, they're like, oh, well, in that case, this is an isekai, or this is an isekai, or you're just being a hater. And I'm like, not trying to hate on it. I admit that there are things I like that are isekai, because Fushigi Yuki is my third favorite anime of all time. Well, third, fourth, something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that for me, isekais can be as specific or as generic. Because some people are like, oh, isekai is just, transported to another world, and then also just, like, they have to die. And that's how they get transported. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then some people are, like, hyper-specific about it. Well, they'll be like, yeah, they do all that stuff, but also they'll be, like, a harem. There'll be, like, multiple women. They'll have this trope of, like, the one girl who's tsundere. They'll have the one trope of the girl that's, like, really angry at everyone all the time.
Yeah.
And, like, hates the main character and tries to fight against everything that they do. They'll have the one, like, one goofy friend that they make in that world that, like, helps them do everything. And explains everything to them. And I'm like, okay, sure, you could... This is the problem that I think we've gotten to as a society, just in general, is that semantics are everything now.
Yeah.
People want to, like, break things down and categorize it into words so badly, but they want to use specific terms so that people know exactly what they're talking about. And sometimes I just feel like it's unnecessary.
I agree.
It's like, what do you gain from breaking down, I'm trying to think, like, Bushigiri, right? You said it was like, like kind of like a parody, kind of like goofy take on, like, this one thing. Yeah. Is there a need to break it down any more than that? Is there, like, specifics that you could... Yeah, it's like, why would you need to go into depth about something that's, like, such, like, it's just its own thing, right?
Right.
And I think sometimes things should just be spoken for by themselves, and you just take it or leave it based on whether you like it or not.
I agree.
And then, also part of the... Maybe this is just me. Part of the fun of, like, trying to tell people about it is describing the plot in a way that it is, like, appealing to them, right? And not just being like, oh, it's an isekai shonen anime.
Right.
That I think you would like. You'd be like, oh, there's this one main character who has, like, this certain power that can interact with, like, atoms and stuff on the molecular level, or whatever you think might interest them.
Right.
Being specific is what makes it fun.
I 100% agree, because, I mean, a lot of times, if we go back to, like, the Fruits Basket example, people will often ask, like, or recommend it as a romance anime, but I've never recommended it as a romance anime. I recommend it as a drama, because if you're going into it expecting a romance anime, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It's really good. I don't think you're actually going to be disappointed, but if that's what you're looking for, you're going to be disappointed. It'd be like, oh yeah, you want to watch an anime about childcare? Go watch Dragon Ball Z. Goku takes care of his son.
Barely, but yeah, that's right.
So it's like,
you mean Piccolo, right? That's what you
right, exactly. I mean, that's the babysitter. It's fine.
Fair.
Yeah, it's like you recommend things based off of, like, more than just the categories that are set. You recommend it on the ones that are most prevalent and the ones that are going to appeal to the person you recommended them to.
Yeah.
My friend Kedja that I've had on here before, we're talking about romance anime, and was on a romance anime kick, and I know what she's into, because she's into the same shit I am, where it's like, we're into the romance anime where it doesn't just end with them holding hands for the first time. And that's exactly how I sell her on every fucking thing. I gave her Say I Love You, because they fucking hook up almost immediately in that one, and you get to see like the full growth of their characters through it.
Yeah, it's like an actual relationship. It's not just like the ending part of it.
Exactly, and I've, like, done that with every show I've done. I even recommended her Nana, not as a romance, but, like, it's gonna fix that romance itch you have, but you're
Mhm.
going to love it for the characters because you're going to relate to them and you're going to love like the music that's in it, which is exactly what ended up happening. I could have been like, it's
Yep.
a music anime about like two girls having romances with multiple guys. She
Mhm.
wouldn't want to watch that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to watch that.
Yeah. That is completely fair. The question, based on like talking about genres and stuff, is there a genre that you refuse to watch? I mean, obviously you have your dislikes with like isekai,
Uh-huh.
but you obviously are a hate watcher like me. Is there any that you're like, I'm just not gonna touch it. Like I don't want to deal anything with it.
So I do just avoid isekais at this point because I've given quite a few of them a shot, and it's
Mm,
always been the one that's like, oh, this one's different. This was the better one. It's the new top one
mm,
at the time, and I've tried it
mm.
and I've hated it, and I've hate watched quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, off recording was ReZero, but if I avoid anything where I actually just wouldn't hate watch because I just don't like it, I don't like parody a lot. Like
And just say okay.
I am going to have to watch One Punch Man because I did a bingo board at the beginning of the year it's a whole bingo board of anime that my chat has voted to make me watch, and
Mhm.
One Punch Man is on there, and I've avoided it just because it's parody humor, and I'm not
Mm,
into it, and I'm very subjective with comedy. Like I
mm.
like it if it's done well in a cohesive story, but I don't
Mm,
like comedy for the sake of comedy, if that
So
makes
you
sense.
probably weren't a big fan of like Gintama and stuff then, right? Where it's
No.
like, yeah, okay,
I wanted to because like one of my favorite Annie-tubers is a huge Gintama fan, and I'm like, I can't. I
that's fair.
tried.
I
Like,
do like that kind of humor, so that is where
yeah.
we do differ. Whereas like
Hmm.
sometimes if it's like wrapped up into a bit and like a sketch, I can really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whereas like if it's in the middle of a story, sometimes I feel it can be done well, but I think that more often than not it ends up weirdly breaking the pace or like ruining the tone that the scene had been set up to,
Yeah.
and it feels odd. But not to say again, this is kind of the same way where we're on opposite ends. As long as it's done well, it can be done well, and I
Right.
can enjoy it. It's just more often than not, I find myself not particularly caring for it.
I do think it's done very poorly quite a lot, especially recently.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
but granted, I think anime as a whole has been a lot more lackluster recently. Like there have been some bangers. I'm not gonna say like we haven't had good anime, but I
Mm,
think over the years we have gotten more anime per season, but we haven't been getting more good anime. I think we've been getting more bad anime,
mm.
and the amount of good anime we've been getting has been less. We're
I agree.
getting far more quantity over quality, which before, like, not to say everything that came out back in the 90s, 2000s was like a banger,
Oh
but
no, not at all.
there was definitely a lot more cream of the crop that came out. Like, were
I also
some
do
good
think it was
choice.
harder to do, right? And it wasn't like as common of a medium.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like now it feels like there's a lot of tools and stuff out there to help people animate for cheaper if they do it themselves, and like also can like you can make your own stories and stuff
Right.
pretty easily nowadays in comparison to the old days, I feel like.
Yeah. I have a question that might be a hot take.
Okay.
So this has been a huge debate within like the anime community for decades.
Hmm.
Can American cartoons be considered anime?
Uh it is, I mean obviously there's like differences between
Mm-hmm.
culturally just like the Japanese anime and cartoons that American are like, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants to do the whole like, Avatar the Last
Yeah.
Airbender thing, right?
Which, but that was the main
To
one I was
me,
getting at. But I'm like, there's stuff
yeah.
like Ben 10 and other things that meet
Yeah,
the same
sure.
animations level.
To me, it's like, who cares whether it's considered? The only difference is just the culture around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should be like gate kept. I mean, because they're all animated.
Right.
The only thing that you're doing typically is just by saying Japanese anime is you're like, oh, there's a certain art style typically. But
Right.
nowadays, that's not even true, right?
No, definitely
Like,
not.
there's such a variety of like art styles and things being used that you can't even. And like American studios are starting to use more and more like Japanese type of styles. So it's like it feels like it's starting to come to like a meshing point where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, why bother arguing that at all?
Right. I
That's how I
agree.
feel.
I've always stood by the thing like all cartoons are anime, but not all anime is cartoons because cartoons
That's
always
fair.
has implied a very slapstick type humor.
Yes.
Um, but very much agree that yeah, there's no reason to really divide it. Um, it's been even harder to kind of divide it since people are like, oh well, anime has to be from Japan, but we're getting a lot of manhwa and Korean
Mm,
anime being made,
mm.
not from Japan.
Yep.
Granted, they also will have that different feel to them. I've watched a few of them, and you can tell just in the
Oh, for
story
sure.
writing that they aren't Japanese made, and it's weird because it's so hard to describe because it's I don't like most of them that I've watched. There
Hmm.
has been Link Click has been phenomenal, but a lot of the action based ones I haven't liked because I didn't like Tower of God. I didn't like High School whatever
Oh,
the
I
pun.
hated this high God of High School or
Yeah,
whatever.
that one. I did not like it.
It was like insane. Like the pacing on it was like, oh, here's the like you know how when you watch an anime and you
Mhm.
watch the opening, you're like, oh, this is kind of what I can expect
Yeah.
from this first season. Like this is kind of the overall tones. Here's some of the characters. That's kind of what I got.
Yeah.
But then like in that, it's like the first like opening is basically the first two episodes.
Yeah.
And then it's already like done and gone past it. I'm like, that is blazing speed of like setup and like the payoff. And then by the end of the first season, he's like an actual god, and it's just all over the place. I hated it.
I felt
I
like
could
I
not keep
was
up.
watching like a 12-hour trailer for an anime. I,
Yeah, right.
I didn't feel like I was watching the actual stuff. I felt like I was watching a summary of the show, which is like
Mm.
highlights. Ugh. Yeah.
Which I actually like Tower of God, so I'm interested as to why you didn't care for it
I
particularly.
I just like I liked it better than God of High School. I'll say that. I don't have any intention of continuing it because the characters weren't that good. I'm sure there's going to be better development for like what this tower is and the power and like
Mm.
what's going on in
Yeah,
the world
that's
building.
fair.
But there wasn't a lot of it. You were just kind of thrown into it, and
Hmm.
even like the main character doesn't really know what's going on, but he's just kind of doing stuff, and then
Yeah.
you're supposed to hate this one girl, and I'm like, I don't care enough to hate her at this point.
I mean, I hate
So
her because she's a bad person, but it's also like I didn't care for the main character. Like
yeah.
I just I don't know. I do think that that one was kind of carried by the world building of like in the interest of like the tower and like the setup for it,
Mm-hmm.
and the characters were kind of like an afterthought for sure.
Yeah. Like it was okay. I'll give it that. It was better than God of High School. Did not like it. Don't really care to watch season 2, but well that's I'm more likely to change on that one than I would if there was a season 2 of God of High School. Um
Mhm.
Link Click was really good. I watched both seasons of that one. Phenomenal drama. I would highly recommend it. I can't wait for a season 3. It's very unique power system for a non-combative anime, but it's going to like if you like emotional hit points, it's gonna hit that pretty hard. Uh,
Mm.
it had me bawling in like a couple episodes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Love
another
heartbreak.
one. What is it? Solo leveling, the newest one.
Yep.
Did not like it. It was okay. I have the same kind of like meh feeling as I did with Tower.
That's
Just
fair. I like it. I do think that I'm kind of like it depends on what comes next
yeah.
because I whenever I was pitched on this originally, I was they were told like, yeah, it's about this guy who basically isekai esque, isekai adjacent, whatever you want to fucking call it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, yeah, basically his whole thing is like dealing with the PTSD of like all this other stuff and trying to go about like doing all the things that you would normally see in these animes. I'm like, oh, that could be interesting if it's more about like the how to handle his PTSD and like develop his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like that's been kind of a minor like
Yeah.
afterthought,
That was
and
like the
I
plot for
want
like an
more of that.
episode.
Yeah, and it's like I wanted that to be more of a like consistent struggle and a bigger
yeah.
ordeal to come overcome.
Yeah. I feel like that was more of a plot point for the one healer chick that was the side
Yeah,
character than it was for
yeah, agreed,
him.
agreed.
My biggest thing is like I wanted to enjoy it for like the action stuff because everyone's talking about how
Mhm.
good the fights were going to be, and I'm like, this man has won every fucking fight by stabbing
Mhm.
something in the eye.
He did, didn't he? I
Yes,
didn't
he
even. I'm
did.
gonna be real. I didn't really think about that. He didn't with the. Actually, did he? He did.
He did.
Even the last person
He
that.
did.
You're right. What the fuck? I just realized that. You're so right.
This man had every single fight. He has tried to escape and dropped the freaking teleporter stone like it's a freaking soap bar, and then proceeded to stab everything in the eye and win the fight. And I'm like, I get it. It's
Mm,
the only weak point of a lot of things. I get it.
mm,
I really do. But at some point, he's got to find another weak point, or else I
mhm.
can't do it.
That's fair. I think the only isekai-esque like things that I've really enjoyed in general
Mhm.
has been jobless reincarnation, which has its own like weird tropes and things that I have issues with and think
Okay,
is really weird.
is that the Mushoku Tensei one? Okay,
Yes,
okay, okay.
Mushoku Tensei. It is good. Man, I could have really done without like the some of the beginning stuff with him as a baby. Man, I get it, but it was so weird of like him being a 40-year-old or 30-year-old or whatever in a baby's body.
Yeah,
I It's just unsettling.
I've heard that complaint a lot. I know that series for a very different reason, and
Oh,
it's become kind of a meme on this podcast because I initially only knew this anime as the manga where he goes to magic school to fix his broken pee.
yes. And to be fair, I think that's hilarious, and I think that that is great as a plot point because it's so not like anything else that I've seen. Even if it
Uh-huh.
is stupid, I'm here for it. Honestly, I was.
Yeah. That was the only thing I knew about it for so long, and I was like, I'm not watching this. And I learned about like the first season of being different
Mm.
and being about him being in the 30-year-old and like touching his cousin or some shit. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm.
I remember that
It
part,
was it
but
was it
there's
was
some other stuff that's already weird enough, so
yeah. It might not
I
be
don't blame you.
it might not be specifically that. It was something about him
Mm.
thirsting or doing something inappropriate with the underage girl, and I was like,
That's basically the whole issue is that
yeah,
the mindset of like him crushing on someone like he even talks about it where he's like why am I crushing on this like girl like this feels weird
yeah,
because it's like but he is a kid but it's like also he obviously has the mind of a 30-year-old
yeah.
and it's like trying to I guess establish like a weird disconnect between like his mentality and honestly like his maturity in the new world. I don't know. It's interesting but it's weird and not for everyone and I would be the first to accept
Yeah.
that.
I
Um,
I have a hot take.
go for it.
Uh I think it is more weird to be a 30-year-old in a child's body dating other children, which is considered normal in most isekais, apparently, than it is to be thirsting after a 100-year-old vampire that looks young.
Yeah, I think I agree with you for the most part. I think the only reason I sometimes can understand people's things on the other side, even though
Mhm.
I like, look, let's say it right, all right, lollies are weird.
Yeah.
Lollies are weird, and I don't get it, and I'll
Mhm.
never get it. But at the same time, I also have female friends in my life that
Mhm.
are very small, very petite women
Exactly.
who struggle with confidence issues because they feel like why would anyone ever be attracted? They genuinely like one of my friends got mistaken at an airport as a lost child
Yeah.
because she's just that little,
Mhm.
and it feels I genuinely feel bad for them because it's like how do you go about that? But you can't encourage people to feel this certain way about this kind of. It's all over the place. I'm very conflicted on this,
I have
but for the most
always
part, I'm very with you.
Yeah, I have always looked very young. I'm tall,
Mm.
which is the only way I get away with it, but
Yeah.
I have been when I was in like 26, 27, after my second relationship, I struggled so hard on dates because most of the guys my age had no interest in me because they thought I was super young.
Mm.
And anytime I did get hit on, it was by like 15-year-olds.
Oh,
And it was
yeah.
I would go to cons and I would get hit on by somebody and then I would like ask their age and like, oh, I turned 15 next month, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh honey, don't talk to me.
yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and then I would in turn go hit on somebody else, and they're like, "Yeah, are you even old enough to drink?" And I'm like, "How old do
Oh
you think I
man.
am?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"You're like 16, right?" And I'm like, I'm 26." And they're like, "Oh, you're older than me?" And I'm like, "Oh my god." Yeah.
F.
So I
F.
feel it. But yeah, I think the lolly thing that there's definitely a line. The line is one if they actually look like an actual small child because one
Yes. Yeah.
animation standards are not always the same treated age. Your JoJo character being the same
Mhm.
age as like My Hero Academia
Yeah.
characters doesn't
It's
always
so
work.
funny, dude. Jotaro
Um
being like 16 is crazy.
yeah, and like any sports anime as well. Like you look at Kuroko's no Basket. None of those
Mm.
characters look like they're 16.
No.
Uh, so if are you gonna judge it based off of their character design? Are you gonna judge it based off of their actual age? It's really hard to do.
A
Um,
lot of times I base off like the maturity of the
yeah.
character and like how they interact. And there's, I will say, this is why I hate lolly shit.
Hmm.
Is because so many times they'll have someone that looks kind of like childish or like
Hmm.
small,
Yeah.
and then they'll also be like a tsundere and like really immature and not know how
Yeah.
to handle relationships. And I hate that. That's when it's gone past the line for me because then it's like
Yeah.
all these things adding up are making it weird. You can't just you have to pick one trait and then go with the others
My
because
line.
ugh,
My line is if they look like the dragon lolly, if they're like that body type where it's like this is obviously supposed to be a child, there is no like gray area here.
yeah,
Or if it's like that is the only thing you're interested in. If your list of waifus is nothing but characters that look really young,
yeah,
I'm going to judge you. If you don't have a single like Revi or C2 or like at least a mature body type on there,
yeah,
I'm not talking to you. I'm sorry.
yeah. That's completely fair.
Yeah. Ugh.
I I will say I think that's my biggest problem with like a lot of. I come on kind of on your page. This
Mhm.
isekai as a whole is kind of my issue with it.
Yeah.
Also, just sometimes the isekais take themselves like weirdly seriously. I think is
Mhm.
another issue, which is why I kind of like Shangri-La Frontier a lot.
Shangri-La Frontier is so fucking good.
Yeah, I agree because it's like this is not a thing where there's a like a villain or like a plot point of like all
Mhm.
this stuff. It is just a dude going in, exploring a world, having fun, and there's like secrets and little mysteries and little like Easter eggs. And I'm like, this is fun. This feels like what an actual video game would be like, and so it feels more natural and like a progression and stuff,
So
and not weird.
I watched. I'm not caught up fully on Shangri-La Frontier, but
Mm,
so I enjoyed it because it itches two scratches for me. One of
mm,
them comes from Dot Hack. Dot Hack did really good with its video game design, but it didn't play too much into like the actual game aspects. Like they talk about the game and they talk about like the world that they're in,
uh,
but the whole show is focused more on the human aspect and like their relationships and why they delve into the game. But
yeah,
the world building is done so well and so creatively that you understand this video game world without actually playing this video game.
yep,
Shangri-La Frontier does this as well. And I
yep,
think it's like it's being explained to the main character a bit more, but it's still it's such a well detailed game and mechanics and like it's it's so good. And but it's also hitting that scratch that I wish Sword Art Online did
mm.
cuz I watched the first season of it. It was fucking horrible. I will never revisit it again.
Amen.
But I feel like to have that like action based main character who's supposed to be like, oh, I'm big into video games and like I'm gonna, of course gonna be really cool at it. Like
Mm,
this is what I wanted Kirito to be. This is I wanted him to be the badass that just like gets better with his games and gets better in
yep,
this world and plays the fucking game as it should be, even if he's trapped
yep.
in it. Like, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's what I needed after
Mhm.
watching Sword Art Online earlier this year.
You oh, so you just watched you. I'm sorry, dude. I should have stopped you. I'm sorry.
It was on the bingo board.
Ah, that is
Yeah,
unfortunate.
yeah. So the list of isekais I have watched, just so, for regulation,
Mhm,
at least modern ones. ReZero, obviously. Sword Art
mhm,
Online, obviously.
yep,
Tanya of the Evil is also on the bingo board, and I had to watch that. That was horrible.
okay, yep,
Uh, ReZero,
mhm,
Shield Hero,
mhm,
Konosuba,
Okay, I haven't watched
Oh,
Konosuba yet. I've been recommended it a lot. We'll see.
yeah.
I'm interested.
The weird villainess one that took off.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I'm missing one. It was another really popular one. Uh, Slimy Isekai.
Oh yeah. Reincarnated as a slime.
Yeah, those are the ones I have tried. Um,
That's fair.
Slimy Sakai is the only one that I didn't finish the first season because at that point I was just like, they keep telling me this one's better than the last one. This one's different,
Mhm.
and it didn't feel different. I was like, I'm done.
No,
I can't.
I think I liked the slime and reincarnated as at first because I was like, oh, I'm really excited. I like things that hint at like political like structures and like him making a new town and
Mm-hmm.
like having how that impacts like other like opposing countries and stuff nearby and trying to establish relationships with them
Right.
and like at the economic side of things. I was like, this is all really interesting. And then he'll go back and he'll be like, yeah, so I evolved another monster by naming it, or I evolved into another monster again. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care about the power scaling. I don't care about the fights. I genuinely just care about like the creating like a city and world building here.
Right.
Why are you focusing on the wrong part for this for me?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll admit it was different slightly, only slightly, but it didn't make it good.
So you
So
haven't seen Overlord yet, right? I don't know if
I
that's on the bingo
oh
board or
yeah,
not.
I did watch like 2 episodes.
Yeah, fair. Because
Yeah.
it's very similar to me, where it's like I want to like Overlord, and I have watched all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think delusionally so because I keep trying to convince myself it'll go back to the things that it was like teasing in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But it was
Oh.
supposed to be doing like the whole him establishing his own country, interacting with everything, and having like this plot behind the scenes that was like very
Yeah.
interesting, and not really following through with it.
I guess if we're talking about things I also dropped really early, Log Horizon I also attempted. I think I got like two
Oh, that's
episodes
fair.
in. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
So
trying to
like
think of things that I've dropped early on.
I've given Isekai a fair chance, I feel like. Because I have
Yeah.
watched the main ones, the big
Yeah, I agree.
ones. So it's not like I'm hating on it being like, oh, I watched one really bad one and then I think they're all the same. Like I have
Yeah, no, if you've
tried.
been like, oh, I watched the vending machine one, I'd be like, okay, well, look.
No.
Maybe give it a little bit more of a chance then.
Okay, so Vending Machine is an anime that I will specifically hate not watch because I am so irritated by that season.
Yep, fair.
Because there was an anime that came out that season that was lower in popularity and didn't get any recognition, but everyone kept talking about the vending machine anime, and I'm like, this can't be good. This anime I'm watching is actually fucking good, and nobody's fucking watching, and I'm angry because no one wants to stop talking about I gotta vend.
Yep.
Angry.
Fair. Honestly, fair and base, and I don't blame you. I feel like I get that way about a lot of stuff. If it's like even games, if I play a game that is under recommended or underrated,
Mm-hmm.
and then like something that I think is just like not a good game is like being like highly touted and like praised. I hate it.
That's me with Honkai Star Rail being praised, and I fucking hate it compared to Genshin because I think Genshin's better.
Yeah, that is fair.
At least better character wise.
I think both get a lot of like praise though. I don't think that Genshin's
They do,
lacking.
but there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, Honkai's better," and I'm like,
Really?
Honkai's characters suck.
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know there was like a dilemma between the two.
I had to stop streaming Genshin because I got people kept coming into my stream asking if I was gonna stream Honkai, and I was like, no, and they're like, why? It's better Genshin, and I'm like, no, it's not. There's not a single good character. And like, oh, what about this character? And I'm like, these 5. I keep seeing trailers for Honkai Star Rail characters, and I, for the longest time, thought they were just re-rolling ads for the same character. I messaged my friend and asked her about it because I was like, are they doing a re-release for this character? She's like, no, that's a different character. And I'm like, oh, what about this one? She's like, that's also a different character. And I'm like, these 4 characters look exactly the same. What do you mean they're different? And I did a whole like tier list where I compared, and like there's so many characters that just they look like the same thing, and the ones that don't look like the same, they look like knockoffs of Genshin characters, like beta test Genshin characters. So I'm just like, I get so much hate for not wanting to play Honkai, and I'm like, I just Genshin has characters in it that I like, and
Mhm.
it's got a good story. People shit on the story, but I like the story. Not to mention, I'm sure you're not really into like the whole Genshin thing, from the way you've talked about it, but
Mhm.
they just released a new trailer for the new character that is dropping on Genshin.
Gotcha.
It's a full-on fucking anime.
That's so sick, honestly.
It's like 8 minutes long, full-on animation. The fight is incredible. Like the music in it goes fucking hard, but like I've never wanted to bark to let a character step on me in my life until I watched this woman in her heels.
That's crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I also don't hate Genshin Impact. Like, I have a
Yeah.
lot of friends who are super into it.
Mm-hmm.
I just have never been one for games kind of in that same realm. I tried playing it whenever like people like friends were sponsored or whatever.
Right.
I like downloaded it and tried it. I think it was just one of those things that I was like, I could like this,
Mm-hmm.
but the amount of time I would have to put into it, I don't think I have or want to like give to it.
That's fair. I like gotcha games. I was addicted to Fate Go
Completely
for
fair.
years.
Mhm.
So, and this is my Fate Go, except I get to do more than just pull for characters all the time.
Yeah, fair.
I get to actually do something more than just click a couple buttons.
Mhm.
Because that's why I'm like into Power World as well. I'm like, I know this is Power World is definitely not anime adjacent, but
Is it a gotcha? I don't think it's a
it's
gotcha either,
not.
is
But
it?
it's the
Okay.
open world aspect thing, like being able to
Mm.
explore the map and find different
Mhm.
areas. Like I'm still exploring the map and finding
Yeah.
like the different zones and stuff and finding different pals. I like that. Genshin, I'm doing
I
the same thing.
was incredibly surprised by how much I enjoyed Power World, honestly. Because I
Yeah.
was like, even though it's not like randomly generated, so it's like hard to replay a
Mhm.
lot, I think it is incredibly vast for the one map that it has.
Yeah.
And it's honestly just a lot of fun.
The
I
fact
don't
that
usually like base builders and stuff, but honestly,
mhm.
it had a little bit of something for everyone, I felt like.
Well, the fact that it's still in beta,
Mm.
like I feel like once it's fully fleshed out, they'll probably add more randomization to it.
Yeah.
But this is really fucking good for a beta.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Like, dude, looking at stuff like 7 Days to Die was in early access for God knows how long,
right?
and it barely functioned sometimes. And I was
Yeah.
like, for that being a beta and not, it's actually incredible, like how
Yeah.
well it is and how like it just works.
Yeah.
I didn't have any trouble like it crashing or anything. Like I feel like a lot of early access games have.
Mhm.
So honestly, I'm happy with it.
As someone that does not play PC games, I'm very much a console gamer. I hate playing on PC.
Yeah,
Uh, I'd had some stuttering issues, which nobody else noticed. I noticed because I'm not used to dealing with them.
yeah.
But like other than that, I had no issue with it. Like I'm enjoying it enough that I'm still playing it on PC because I
Uh-huh.
can't play it on fucking PlayStation 4 because it's only on Xbox. Bullshit. But
F.
yeah, like I literally this game comes out only on Xbox after I threw away my Xbox because I wasn't playing on it.
Oh man.
I'm so angry. I was like, damn, I should have just brought it. That's fine. I threw it away when I moved. Anger. All right.
Such.
Any other hot takes that take us out of here?
I don't have any hot takes. I was gonna ask you how you feel about sports animes because that's probably my actually probably bigger than isekai. I love sports animes.
I fucking love sports animes.
Oh
Um,
fuck yeah.
I do have a hot take on
Okay.
sports anime things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the biggest Haikyuu fan, and I'm not the biggest Blue Lock fan. For
Yeah, that no. Oh,
oh,
you've insulted me. You've insulted my people.
I still love them. I'm not saying they're bad, but
Mm-hmm.
they are some of my least favorites for almost the same but also the opposite reason.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
I liked Prince of Tennis and I loved Kuroko's No Basket and I love like where it's
Mm-hmm.
realistic in a way, but there's still kind of like that supernatural element of like, okay, this is slightly like superpowery. Like they totally destroy
Yeah.
the dinosaurs with tennis balls and
Yeah. Yeah.
they have the zone with the Kuroko's No Basket.
Yeah. As I
I
say, Kroko's No Max is not real life. I don't know what you're talking
Nah,
about. Those
yeah.
guys.
but like it's enough real that I feel like okay,
Mhm.
I don't as someone that does not partake in sports, like I play tennis, but I played
Yeah,
tennis because I got into Prince of Tennis. Um,
fair.
but I'm not a big sports watcher. So being able to watch and sit down and enjoy basketball in Kuroko's No Basket,
Mhm.
huge leap for me. Um,
That's fair.
and I think every other sports anime I've watched, I've really enjoyed, and they've also kind of do that kind of otherworldly power system to make it more interesting to a non-sports enjoyer.
Mhm.
Haikyuu has none of the supernatural elements, so it's like
Yeah.
it loses that little notch for me. I still enjoy it. I just don't enjoy it as much because it doesn't have that. Blue
Yeah, that's
Lock
kind of fair.
is the opposite. It is nothing but the superpower thing, and it's like a little less of the sport. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I want my balance back. So
Yeah.
again, not saying they're bad. I still enjoy them. I still watch them all. I'm not
Mhm.
caught up on Haikyuu, but
Mhm.
they are my least favorite of the sports anime that I have watched and enjoyed.
That is fair.
Mhm.
I probably like them a lot more because I grew up in a place where I played so many sports. I played everything that I could get my hands on basically.
Mhm.
I played tennis, I played football, I played basketball, I played I didn't get to play baseball unfortunately
Okay.
because I didn't have the time to dedicate to the seasons whenever I was playing the other sports.
Right.
So I was basically I played softball like in free time with like friends, but never like hardcore.
Okay.
Um, so the competitive outlets of like Haikyuu and like Blue Lock being like hardcore into like the actual competitive side of things and like
Mhm.
describing like the intricacies of like how certain techniques work, why like the rules are like a certain way, and like the comparisons of that, how you can like train for those things. I really like that stuff, and
Mhm.
sometimes the superpower thing can take me out of it a little bit because I'm like, oh, what are you supposed to do against the fucking like I couldn't put myself in anybody's shoes who's up against Almini from the fucking Kurgo's basket because the dude just like jumps outside of bounds, throws it behind his head over the basketball goal, and makes it.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. In what world?
Yeah,
And
but it
it's
looks
like,
cool.
oh, it looks sick. I still love Kurgo's no basket. Like it's just the same thing for me, where it's like I like it a little bit less
Yeah.
because of how ridiculous it is, but I do like it.
Yeah.
Ace of Diamond is like the
Ooh,
perfect
Ace of
balance to
Diamonds
me
really good.
where it's like you have dude when they like talked about Raichi and
Mhm.
introduced his bat and they called it Money Tree and it's
Oh
like
my
10
god.
times heavier than a normal bat.
Uh-huh.
I was like, this is my fucking shit.
Yeah. Oh
He
my
goes in there
god.
and just laser beam hits it and like the ball like crumples around the bat. Oh, I live for that hype.
Yeah. I enjoyed what was it? I think is it called Days? It's also a baseball
Yeah,
anime.
and is it wait? Is it Days? I thought Days was soccer. Is it not?
Is it soccer? Might be
I think
soccer.
so.
Um, but yeah, I enjoyed that one. That was like far more realistic, I think. I can't think of any like standout moments in that one. And then I also watched the rugby one all out, but I watched that one
Yep.
because the main cover was literally just booty.
Fair. I watched it because I'd almost played rugby in college.
Okay.
Because I was really interested in it. If it wasn't for the fact that the college I went to, the rugby house was known for unfortunate things.
Ah,
And
understandable.
so I was like, I'm not gonna be a part of that and I don't want to be potentially associated with that.
You're right.
So
See,
um
so on that I have like an opposite background on, I guess, because
mhm,
I never got into sports. I wasn't barely able to even participate in PE because I was really sickly when I was younger.
uh-huh.
And I've had health issues up until I'd say up until I was like 27, but then COVID happened and the health issues came back. So, but so I never really got to participate in sports. I got into tennis because it was like a year where I was slightly healthy, but I had to give it up because my health started deteriorating again.
Mhm,
So I never had the option to play sports, and I didn't really have the option to like
mhm,
participate or even watch. I did go to like middle school, high school football games because I was in band for a short while, and it was
mhm.
the cool thing to do when you're a edgy teenager to go and hit on other edgy teenagers underneath the bleachers, kind of thing.
Yeah, true.
But otherwise, like I didn't watch a lot of sports. I didn't participate in any. I didn't have the option
Mhm,
to. So getting to see and get into it by anime, it's like, well, it's all otherworldly to me. I don't know if this is real or not. It,
That's fair.
so,
Okay.
I don't know if this is physically possible. I know I physically can't do it regardless.
Mm, that is fair. I guess it's a different perspective then.
Yeah. Though to
I
be fair,
also
I know tennis things that I can't do, and I still think it's cool that they uh, did half
for
that shit.
sure. I think for me, it's like sometimes the supernatural part of things are like instead of amping up and being like, oh, this guy can copy anyone's ability or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. Sometimes the animation just carries it. Like in
Yeah.
Haikyuu, there's specifically a serve where a dude's like, he's just really good at jump serving, and that's like his whole thing. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't make it seem like he's like otherworldly, but he goes out and there's a moment where they're in the middle of a game and he jumps up and he slaps the ball, and the animation, you see like the ripple effect go throughout the ball in his hand as he like smacks it and slowly pushes it forward. It's like so detailed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so hype.
Okay.
And it's stuff like that I live for, where it's like highly animated, like intense moments. You
Yeah.
can tell it's like this is where the sports anime means business.
Right. Right. I have to
But
bring up another sports anime that's not a lot of people associate with being a sports anime, but I have to just because like how it
is it
is.
Ping Pong the animation or whatever?
No, this one's super out of the realm of reality.
Okay.
Air Gear.
Dude, Brutal's been recommending me Air Gear for so long at this point.
Oh my god.
I still have not watched it yet. I need to at some point, I guess.
It's so good, but this is one of the first times, like there's probably about 3 anime from that time period where I had to go read the manga because I had to see what was happening next, and Air Gear is one of those. Because the anime covers so little of it, and then they have the OVAs, which the OVAs happen after the anime, but there's a gap in between, so I have no idea for the context of what is going on. But the logic that this man wrote into how physics work is so highly detailed in these manga panels that I know that's not how physics work.
But damn, like, that could be. It could be though.
I'm sitting here reading an entire paragraph of how gravity works in the center of the earth and how this guy got super ripped because he's skating in the center of the earth for so long, and I'm like, sure.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
for sure. That's how that works.
Yeah, great. Okay. Or like the friction of your skates, if you have the right parts, can make actual fire appear, or like make it feel like you're being stabbed by thorns. Yep. Totally. I get it. But no, it's one of those, like, of course, back to an earlier conversation of like categorizing things. Does it really matter? Like, technically they are racing on skates. Technically, I guess, sure, it's a sports anime. I do not recommend it as a sports anime. It's so fucking good though. It's so fucking good.
I guess that's 2 recommendations. Now I gotta watch it at this point.
That one gets my stamp of approval on that one. I don't know about Brutal's taste. I don't know Brutal's taste in anime that well either, to be honest. I know his taste in openings, and that's already questionable.
Fair enough. I think his is very probably not something you would be into, because a lot of the stuff is like very parody.
Yeah.
Sketch kind of like comedy based, so I don't think that it would be really up your alley, a lot of the things that he likes, but
yeah, great dude, love him to death.
Great. Hey, salt to the earth, give him the shirt off my back.
Yep. I
Can't
think I've ever really God, I don't think I've ever really agreed with him on game or anime things that we've talked about.
Oh really?
Yeah. Because I remember going into a stream and he was doing anime openings, rankings, or whatever, and I'm like, oh, you sweet summer child, please stop.
Okay, I've seen this list now. I'm curious.
I got so heated watching it because it's the one website where they had anime openings and you pick this or that one until you get to the top. And all the ones on that were, like, not good to begin with, but, like, even his choices that he wanted to make were not good. So I went through and I made my own of the tiers with
You're
just
so
like
salty. You made your own list.
I did, and I've been making people take it. I wanted Brutal to take it, but trying to get him to do anything is fucking hard.
Yeah,
I literally have to corner him to be like, hey, you got plans for stream tonight? You're doing this for stream tonight. Here. Which I don't have the balls to do.
That's fair.
But yeah, I put my like top 64 anime openings on it. And that way I can't actually get mad if what wins because they're all great.
Fair.
But yeah. That's how pissy I got at his fucking opinions.
You know what? Send it to me. I want to do this now at some point.
I gotta find it and I'll do that. It's in a DM somewhere.
That's fair.
For sure. You'll get the fucking Trigun Stampede opening in there because it's definitely in there. So
dope.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been going for almost 3 hours.
Yeah, I didn't know how long you usually went, so I don't want to say like how long were we going for, but
so I will go for like a 2-hour mark. That's like the hard push is 2 hours, but yeah. If we get carried away in conversation, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, fair.
So I mean, I've seen podcasts that you participate in that go on for like 6 fucking hours. So
yeah, whoa, those podcasts went long. Sometimes.
Yeah, it takes me several sit down listens to get through an entire freaking episode.
Yeah, sometimes. That's fair. Honestly, I think about that a lot, where I'm like, what is the perfect consumable amount of like podcast time? And I think to me, it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I think it's where I'm at, where I'm like, I can turn it on like longer trips or whenever I'm going to do stuff around in town, and I can listen to the entire thing by the time I get home, and that's it.
I have a 2-hour commute, so I get 2 hour.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I get 2-hour chunks. Well, if you're in the episode.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, thank you for jumping in on this episode. We agreed on a lot more than we initially thought. Where can they find you after this? What projects are you working on? What you do?
I mean, mostly streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv, BLG Chunk. Big Chunk is what I go by, but try to take out the numbers because I got made fun of, and so I changed it to an L because the person who owns Big Chunk won't message me back because he blocked me. But yeah, find me on Twitch, BLG Chunk. I am also on YouTube. I think it's also BLG Chunk or Big Chunk 53. I'm not sure, honestly. I try to post shorts and stuff there every so often, trying to get more back into it and editing things, but we will see how consistent I get with a full-time job. No promises.
Understandable, honestly.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like you of all people could relate to that.
Yeah. After like doing 2 podcasts and 2-hour commutes and full-time job, yeah.
2-hour commute's crazy, man. I don't know how you do this.
Oh man. But yeah, definitely check out his stuff. I'll link it all down in the descriptions. If you want to check him out as well, I'll have it linked into the Twitter. If you want to check out any updates regarding this podcast or the other podcast I run or any future projects, check us out at RiceCon Podcast or X, I guess it's not Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I am your host, Cyan Kincaid. I stream over on Twitch. Come yell at me, go yell at Chunk if you disagree with their opinions. I'm sure he's fine with criticism as much as I am.
Oh, for sure. Come yell at me and tell me One Piece is bad. As long as you have a good take on it, I'm fine with it.
Tell him you hate it because his name is Monkey.
I'll just find you in real life and fist fight you in a Denny's parking lot.
Alright. Thank you again for joining. And
of course.
We'll catch up again sometime soon. This was fun.
I agree. I had a blast.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.